What's up guys, this is your favorite fanfic YouTuber, the Fanfic Majesty. Join my Discord if you want to chat and share your thoughts, the link is in the description. 5MP Chapter 101 News from the Ninja Association, 1 quarter, please subscribe. Konoha, Hokage Office. The huge disaster caused by Otsutsugi's night raid on Konoha has basically recovered after this period of repair. The office is still the same office, but the people sitting in the office at this time are already different people. The young Namikaze Minato was sitting at his desk in a Hokage robe, and in front of him was a tall pile of documents. Looking at the pile of documents, Namikaze Minato couldn't help but sigh. As a newly appointed Hokage, there are of course a lot of things that need to be handed over. It is precisely because of this position that Namikaze Minato knew how many things Sarutobi had to consider before. As big as the relationship between the entire ninja world and the small and large ninja villages, the 330s, are as small as the relationship between the major families in the village and then to the life of the people in the village itself. All kinds of things, big and small, almost make it difficult. He was too busy to breathe. Even when he was on the battlefield before, he never felt more tired than now. And more importantly, Namikaze Minato didn't even dare to take a break. Because there is no doubt that the current ninja world is at a critical juncture of historical turning point. The guys hidden in the dark haven't been eliminated, but made people feel more and more weird. Especially not long ago, Zura, who was originally under surveillance in the Konoha hospital, was taken away by someone unknown, which made Namikaze Minato feel a dark camp in his heart. Not just him, Konoha's other bosses are also the same. After Sannin was attacked in Konoha, Jiraiya left Konoha and continued to search for traces of the enemy in the surrounding countries. Tsunade is fully devoted to the training of medical ninjas, trying to train good enough medical ninjas when the next disaster occurs. As for Orochimaru, he built a new laboratory outside Konoha and began to study the little remnants left by the previous Ghost Clan. Under such circumstances, Namikaze Minato, the fourth Hokage, naturally dared not take it lightly. Even about his disciple, Uchiha Obito, he hasn't had much time to search recently. Obito. Advertisement Namikaze Minato also had a feeling in his heart when he thought about this disciple whose life and death were unknown until now, and when he thought about Kakashi and Rin, who had been constantly concerned about this matter until now, and who trained their own strength in a way that was almost masochistic. Master 4th generation. But it was also in Namikaze Minato's heart that an Enbu ninja stationed in front of the office door also entered the office after knocking on the door. This is a letter from Madame Zune to you. He gently handed Namikaze Minato an unopened letter. Kushina. After opening the letter and looking at it, Namikaze Minato felt a little better. There is no police content in the smile, probably his wife who can't be idle is complaining about the lack of personal freedom and the like. And for this, Namikaze Minato naturally can only smile bitterly. His wife, Uzumaki Kushina, was the Nine-Tails Jinchuriki in the village, and she was pregnant, so she had already been moved to a very secret place. Even as Hokage, he communicates with his wife by letter most of the time. However, as time passed, the child in Kushina's belly was going to be born in a few months. For Naruto, I have to work hard to protect the village and go around. Thinking of his wife and children, Namikaze Minato also regained his energy and began to deal with the mountains of documents in front of him. But he didn't expect that in less than 10 minutes. Master 4th generation. Along with that Konoha Enbu walked in again, but this time his attitude was obviously much more serious. Well, Ben, what's wrong? At this time, Namikaze Minato also naturally heard something wrong in Enbu's words. This Enbu's name is Aburame Benben, who is Enbu Jonin of the Aburame family who is specialized in Konoha intelligence collection, and is responsible for reporting his Hokage ticket to him. Some key messages 0. In the Iron Country, there is news about the 3rd generation project. Advertisement. As soon as Aburame's words came out, Namikaze Minato's expression changed suddenly. Iron Country, a country located in the center of the ninja world, the country of samurai with quite powerful military strength, and also a rare neutral country in the ninja world. Especially after the establishment of the Ninja World Association, the Iron Country became the location of its headquarters. Each ninja village has dispatched a special spokesperson at this headquarters, with many elites and strong people from each ninja village. The meaning of its existence is to target those mysterious forces hidden in the shadows of the ninja world. As the former generation of Konoha Hokage, who is also the current Konoha spokesperson in the Ninja World Association, Hizen Sarutobi has gone to the Iron Country not long ago to be stationed. And Namikaze Minato also knows Sarutobi Hiizaki very well. Since the 3rd Hokage has given him the position, he must know how busy he is after taking over the position of Hokage. So if it wasn't for something important, he would never send back news easily. But now, the meaning of Sarutobi Hiizaki's message back is that. Found the trail of those guys? Having said this, Namikaze Minato's eyes were also 2.6 cold. He is both resentful and fearful of those mysterious organizations that are hidden in the dark, ancient and mysterious, and are constantly engaged in trouble and reign in the ninja world. Yep. Aburame had hidden a very secret scroll to Namikaze Minato. When Namikaze Minato opened it, his complexion had changed. What is written on the scroll is simple. Among the teams that the headquarters of the Ninja World Association recently sent to explore the ninja world, Kusanagi's exploration team made a huge discovery. In a rift near Tangren village, a strange space rift was found. The reason for its existence itself cannot be ascertained, and the size of the interior is unknown, but it can be judged that it is a huge area. Chapter 102 We found Jingling, Infinite City in Mary Joa. 244, please subscribe. A. The Iron Country, the headquarters of the Ninja Association. Although it is a brand new organization established within a year, because this organization almost symbolizes the size of all ninja villages in the entire ninja world, the construction of the association headquarters itself has been extremely perfect. Various sentries and secretly lurking in various ninja villages and people stick to every place. After sending out some elites in the small and large ninja villages in the entire ninja world, this place can almost be said to be one of the safest places in the entire ninja world. Especially at this time, the guards of the entire association headquarters are even more strict than ever. The reason for this is very simple, because the 5 shadows of the 5 great ninja villages are in the conference room in the center of the headquarters at this time. The size of the conference room is quite huge, and in addition to the main seat of the 5 great ninja villages in the middle, there are other small and medium-sized ninja villages such as Grass Ninja, Ryu Ninja, and other seats. At this time, the representatives of these small and medium-sized ninja villages were all sitting in their seats. As for the 5 shadows of the 5 great ninja village, they are already sitting on the top of the main seat, and sitting with them are their confidant subordinates or high-level people in the village. Laozi must first ask clearly, are you really sure that the news this time is correct? At this time, it was 4th Reikage who spoke. The short-tempered Reikage has been in Cloud Shinobi Village's rare side of the ninja world since his last scratch at Zaraki Kenpachi. But at this time, it can be clearly seen that there are a lot of scars on his body, and it is obvious that he has undergone some kind of penance during this period of time. Gather the 5 of us together. If there is an oolong in the end, the losses in the major villages will not be easy to settle. But it is clear that his violent temper has not changed much. About this incident, it was discovered by the exploration team of Grass Ninja Village first. It is better to listen to what they have to say. After hearing 4th Reikage's words, many other shadows didn't take it to heart. Instead, a young man with green hair and purple pupils who looked quite young spoke softly. But looking at his young age, everyone present paid attention to his words. Advertisement. The reason is very simple. This baby-faced guy is one of the 5 shadows, 4th Mizugage Yagura. Yes, we discovered this space rift this time. At this time, on the seat belonging to the Grass Ninja Village, the representative of the Grass Ninja in the Ninja World Association, Hueco, also slowly stood up. He raised his hand slightly, and then a strange screen appeared on the table in front of Wying, and some photos were constantly flashing on it. The location of this space rift is in the Grand Canyon near Tangren Village. We also discovered it accidentally when we went to Tangren Village to exchange information. 5. We have invited researchers from the time and space ninjutsu in the association to make a judgment. The rhythm of this space crack is not a natural phenomenon, but because a special enchantment space is hidden here, but due to some internal reasons, a leaky seam has caused the space to rupture. As he spoke, he pointed to the photo, and there was indeed such a space rift about the size of 3 people in the center of a rift. However, this space fissure does not exist all the time, but it will appear for an hour every 3 days or so. After Hueco said rhyme, the 5 shadows nodded lightly. As shadows, each of them is naturally a special image of ninjutsu. As for the time and space ninjutsu, if they don't say Grandmaster, they're at least involved. So they also know that the complexity of time and space is far more than any kind of ninjutsu. Space and time itself has the characteristics of self-healing, and it is almost impossible to naturally generate such space cracks that appear every once in a while. So, you two came first. What do you think? At this time, 3rd Tsuchikage Onogi also looked at Konoha. On Konoha's side, Namikaze Minato is sitting on the main seat at this time, while Sarutobi Hiizaki is sitting beside him. Onogi asked the two of them, and naturally there was a reason. Sarutobi Hiizaki is known as Dr. Ninjutsu, and he is naturally involved in time and space ninjutsu. And 4th Hokage Namikaze Minato is a powerhouse known for his time and space ninjutsu. Advertisement. Such a huge space crack is constantly being created and repaired, indicating that there is a huge amount of energy inside, and that hidden space is likely to be extremely huge. At this time, Sarutobi Hiizaki said directly, furthermore, I went to the land of soup not long ago and saw the space rift with my own eyes. 99. Confirmed by the ninjas of my Konoha clan, the power of the hook infiltrating the space rift is very close to the previous demon's nest, but it is many times stronger. Speaking of which, everyone's faces changed in unison. Of course, the lair of demons Konoha encountered before, not a spider mountain, is of course not a secret among several large ninja villages. Even a few 330 great ninja inner villages must have had extended discussions on this matter, what to do if there is a ghost's lair near their village. And this time, Sarutobi Hiizaki's words undoubtedly showed that. What we found this time may be another ghost's lair that is many times larger. But more likely, where those guys are really hiding. Sarutobi Hiizaki's words were also full of complex meanings. Not only him, everyone else knew what it meant. If what Sarutobi Hiizaki said was true, then it meant that the strange space corresponding to the space fissure they discovered was probably not a ghost's lair. After all, the previous Nashin Spider Mountain was already the lair of a 12 ghost moon, but this time this space is countless times larger than that of the Nashin Spider Mountain. In other words, this area is likely to be the real nest of other hidden forces, which is... You mean, we found one of Jingling, Infinite City, Mary Joa and Fuji Mountain? There is such a possibility, and the possibility is not small. Chapter 103 The Five Shadows Who Make Decisions, 3/4, please subscribe. After knowing the situation, the five shadows also became extremely solemn at this time. In this way, what they discovered this time is really a major event worthy of the presence of all five of them. This mysterious space that was suddenly discovered is likely to be one of those old nests that they have always been afraid of. If this is true, then it undoubtedly means that this is the full contact of the ninja world with those outside forces in the true sense. So what should be done next is naturally a topic of discussion. Why don't you ask? Why do we keep so many elite ninjas at the association's headquarters? Isn't it just to deal with those guys? Now that they have found their nest, of course, they will attack directly in one go. 33. And for this question, Reikage naturally gave such a response. Cloud Shinobi Village has always been a real main fighting faction, and the police said that the body of his father Third Reikage is still missing, so he naturally wanted to investigate the situation of the other party immediately. And Reikage is not a fool. If it is just a ninja village in Cloud Shinobi Village, he will certainly consider it a little bit. After all, if the army is dispatched, then other villages are likely to take the opportunity to do something. But now, since the Ninja World Association has been established, he naturally does not have to think about doing things. In his opinion, even if those hidden forces are indeed extremely ancient, the raids carried out by the entire ninja world together have a considerable success rate. Similar to Reikage, there is 4th Case Gauge Luosha who has not spoken much. I also think that we should attack directly. Luo Sha said this indifferently. Since the one tail was taken away, San Shinobi Village has been severely damaged and plunged into internal chaos, and it has not fully recovered until now. In particular, the fact that the tailed beast was taken away made the position of the Kingdom of Winds as one of the 5 major countries crumbling. Not long ago, the ancient Kingdom of Lulan within the Kingdom of Winds was completely destroyed in a mysterious explosion. All of this has caused the country of the wind to be extremely unstable now, so Luo Sha also needs a war to divert domestic attention. In addition, if what they found this time is really the lair of the world government, then Luo Sha must retake the one-tailed Shuhei no matter what. And after Reikage Kazuki and the two made their statements one after another, Mizuka Chigura and Tsuchikage Onogi obviously have opposite views among the remaining 3 shadows. I don't think it's a good idea to attack directly, but at least watch for a while to confirm the situation further. Advertisement is the only shinobi village that has not been in contact with hidden forces such as the Gode 13 squad so far. Kirito obviously has a more calm attitude towards this matter. Mizuka kid's right, you know how mysterious those guys are. This might be a trap they set us on purpose. On the other hand, Onogi nodded. As the eldest of the 5 contemporary 5 shadows, the conflict between Rock Shinobi and these forces has so far been limited to the Gode 13 team, so naturally he will not act rashly. With the 4 shinobi villages expressing their position, everyone's attention is naturally focused on the last shadow, Namikaze Minato. Hokage, what do you think? Reikage spoke first, and even Sarutobi Hiizaki didn't say anything to Namikaze Minato at this time. Now that he has given the position of Hokage to Akatsuki Namikaze Minato, he will naturally not intervene in such a major event that affects the future of the entire village. This is the responsibility of Hokage. And Namikaze Minato himself obviously knew the importance of this decision, so he spoke softly after a long silence. I think there should be an attack, but not an all-out attack. His eyes were like electricity, and his words were loud. I also have a little understanding of time and space ninjutsu. I don't think this is a trap. The existence of space rifts is extremely difficult to master, and it is almost impossible to use as a trap. In my opinion, if the space inside the space is as huge as expected, then the existence of this space crack should not be known to the other party at all. So, Namikaze Minato looked at everyone present. The large-scale, rhyme movement army will inevitably be discovered by the other party, and it may not be in time for it. And judging from our previous encounter with Konoha in the Ghost's Lair, there is a high probability that the weaker ninjas will not be able to do anything effective. So in my opinion, our 5 shadows should lead a most elite force in a blitzkrieg. In this way, unless the opponent's strength is strong enough to completely master everything in the entire space, even if we enter it, it is very likely that the opponent will not find it. Once the situation is confirmed, we can completely withdraw from the space rift or act again. Namikaze Minato's proposal can only be described by 2 completely contradictory words: robust, yet risky. The stable point is that the plan he proposed can ensure that the interior of the major ninja villages will not be completely empty. But the adventure lies in the fact that his intention is to let the 5 shadows and a group of elites from the major ninja villages enter that mysterious space in person. It is conceivable that once something happens, it will affect the major ninja villages. Undoubtedly huge. Advertisement, but rather. I agree. And with the 5 films, the plan of action is almost certain. He is the only remaining 3rd generation project among the 5 shadows. Even if something happens, there is still young blood in Rock Shinobi, and he has already made arrangements. 4th Reikage was the first to nod in agreement. As for Namikaze Minato himself, of course he has no opinion. Sarutobi Hiizaki is still alive, Even if something happens to him, he can completely replace Hokage's position by Sarutobi Hiizaki, and Konoha can't be messed up. After the sudden change was over, Yagura just said these 4 words softly. Thank you for reading this story at fictionzone.net. Your support enables us to keep the site running. The old man has no opinion. 99. So in the end, among the 5 shadows, Yagura was the only one who did not make a statement. I agree. As a ninja who has experienced 2 wars in the ninja world, Onogi is also, well, not a person who is greedy for life and fear of death. Luo Sha also nodded at this time. In the current situation of the Land of Wind, it was a natural choice for him to take risks. For him, taking the lead was the norm, but just as the 4th Mizukage was about to say something, his eyes were slightly distracted. On the other hand, Tsuchikage Onogi nodded in the same way. 3 days later, when the space rift opens again, let's enter that mysterious space. Then from the eyes, circles of dim afterimages flickered and disappeared in an instant. Even the 5 shadows, they could not notice this strange situation at all. I agree. Chapter 104 where we are is, Hueco Mundo, 4 quarters, please subscribe. 3 days later, the shell of the southern part of the Land of Soup was cracked. The 5 shadows, each wearing their own battle costumes, led the Geniners to stand above the rift. At this moment, they all looked at the slowly expanding space fissure in the Rift Valley with serious expressions. It is worth mentioning that in addition to the 5 shadows at this time, 2 additional cage-level ninjas were present at the scene. That is Jiraiya and Orochimaru from Konoha Sannin. The 2 of them were originally traveling around countries to check for news, while the other was immersed in experiments in Konoha's laboratory. But after hearing about the action of the Ninja World Association, they also left their business behind and came here without hesitation. Now is the time for this space rift to expand to its maximum value, and we have 3 days to enter it to investigate. At this time, Hiruzen Sarutobi, who was in charge of recording the spatial rift data, also said seriously. Every ninja village is ready. Jump in. And as his words fell, many ninjas also swarmed Chara, and then they went all the way down the rock wall, and then jumped directly into the space rift. Numerous figures fell from the fissure, but as well-trained ninjas, they naturally wouldn't make any sound, but after a while, they set up a perfect defensive formation of 330 to observe the surroundings. And then, including Wu Inner Shadow, all the ninjas present were stunned. Because it was only a short while after jumping into the space rift, they were already in an area that had no similarity at all. As far as their eyes could see, there was only an endless desert, and the stars above the desert that covered the night sky. The desert seems to be infinitely huge, and at the end of the desert, a dazzling beam of light can be seen rising into the sky, as if it is the center of the world. The huge beam of light is like a tree of light, with countless branches at the top. When seeing this world, there is a word in everyone's heart, that is ancient. The whole of this desert exudes an ancient and distant atmosphere, and its existence itself seems to be an extension of this word. This is a spectacle that is completely different from any scenery in any area, and it also shocked all the ninjas. They can be sure that this is definitely not any place in the ninja world. This space fissure is linked to a place they have never been to or know about. This is really amazing. Can such a huge space be a GCG, hidden? Orochimaru, the #1 ninjutsu researcher in Konoha after Sarutobi Hidden, was also looking around at this time, and his expression was also rarely flickering with surprise. Advertisement, and even Orochimaru has this expression, not to mention other ninjas. It's very similar to Nash and Spider Mountain, but it's not sure how many times bigger. Our guess may be right, 9. At this time, Namikaze Minato, who had personally arrived at Nash and Spider Mountain, also made the same judgment, and at this time, his hand was already clenching kunai. At least it doesn't look like the Grand Line or the Red Continent. In my opinion, it's probably where Jingling is located. Onogi guessed so. Clearly, however, it is useless for them to guess too much here. I will leave the imprint of the Flying Thunder God here, and other shinobi villages will leave some people to guard this space rift. Namikaze Minato said decisively. As for the others, we continue to explore the depths. After Namikaze Minato said this, everyone naturally divided into 2 teams according to what Namikaze Minato said. A few ninjas stayed at the stronghold, while the 5 shadows led the other ninjas to the depths. In such a strange place, their progress is of course extremely news, and often when they advance, they will ask multiple branch troops to be alert around. But what surprised them was that nothing seemed to exist in this space except for sand. And after a full day of progress like this, what is that? As a ninja from the vanguard exclaimed, the expressions of the 5 shadows walking behind changed slightly. Afterwards, they also directly used the teleportation technique to come to the position where the exclamations were made in front of them. It was a magnificent sight after climbing over a hill made of sand. That is a magnificent palace. The whole palace is built of sand and ancient stones, and the vastness spreads over the past to form a huge palace group, which is extremely magnificent. However, what everyone was shocked was not the palace itself, but the huge figure behind the palace that almost completely covered the palace. It was a giant. Each giant has a huge body like a building, and their bodies are like ghosts with sharp horns and fangs, and their huge bodies exude a bloody smell. Their eyes are shrouded in shadow and cannot see details and their numbers. It's just infinite. Even though the five shadows and many ninjas were already standing on the sandy hillside, they couldn't see the end of the spreading giant army at first glance. The tall body is like a desperate creation that covers all hope, so that everyone can only feel a coldness in their hearts. Advertisement regardless of fear or surge, that is the instinctive reaction of any creature when faced with an army of behemoths. They never doubted the strength of these giants at all. As long as they were really living creatures, they would not be much weaker just by virtue of this body. And if an army of giants of this size all trembled, then it would simply be invincible army. As the actual ruler of the ninja world, the weight in Wu Ying's heart at this time is naturally indescribable. But it is also at this time. I saw that the place where the sound came from was a place in the palace not far away. Huh? Human? Naturally, Jiraiya and Orochimaru were extremely vigilant because of their previous relationship with Konoha, while the remaining four shadows were secretly thinking in their hearts that one of Black Death's hard work is now here. So is it really here? Another Ghost's Lair? Or Infinite City? Breaking into Hueco Mundo, at such a time, stupid lambs who are not afraid of death. At this moment, Mu Jung, who was wearing a black kimono, looked at the ninjas in surprise. Hueco Mundo, and at the moment of hearing this voice, Namikaze Minato's body immediately tense, and then he looked at the direction from which the voice came. But if this is the lair of ghosts, what is the origin of the terrifying giant army in the distance? An indifferent voice suddenly sounded. Be careful. This guy is one of the evil spirits, Black Death Mo. But it was when all the ninjas were extremely vigilant that they heard Black Death Mo speak coldly. Their location is not the Ghost's Lair or the Infinite City, but something they had never thought of before, an imaginary circle. Thank you for reading this story at fictionzone.net. Your support enables us to keep the site running. Black to Death. At this time, Namikaze Minato, who had fought against Black Death not long ago, knew how terrible the opponent was, and also gave a low voice. So everyone's doubts were answered. Is that the guy? And after hearing Namikaze Minato's words, Wying, Jiraiya, Orochimaru and others also have a sharp light in their eyes. Chapter 105 Ymir, Solve Them, 1/4, please subscribe. Here, that legendary, Hueco Mundo. Undoubtedly, this answer was something that none of the five shadows thought of. The reason is very simple, because the word, Hueco Mundo, has actually always been an obscure term for them. There is little news about this faction, and the only representative of the Hueco Mundo force that has appeared so far is Espada's 8th rank Zale Aporo. And even Zale Aporo has never really had a hook fight before. So for everything about Hueco Mundo, they know very little. The only thing they know is that Hueco Mundo is sealed by the Jingling court, and what is sealed in Hueco Mundo is a powerful race similar to the Ghost family and has questions. So from the beginning, the five shadows didn't think about this mysterious desert space in the direction of Hueco Mundo. But obviously, they didn't have the leisure time to think too much at this time. Because right in front of them, there was a dangerous person standing. Last time, I lost face in front of your majesty. This time, I'll pay it back. Hey Death Mo slowly and indifferently drew a hook from his waist. But it was at this time. Your Excellency Black Death Mo, it was our mistake to have small bugs come to Suya Palace. As a guest, you don't have to do anything. Accompanied by a soft voice, Zale Aporo's figure also came to Black Death Mo's side after a loud turn. I have informed your majesty of the news, and I believe his majesty will soon. Before Zale Aporo's words could be finished, a clear and arrogant voice began to echo in the entire space. Dark Year of the Dead, Zale Aporo stepped down one by one. The voice was full of pride and domineering, and Black Death Mo and Zale Aporo reacted differently after seeing this. Black Death Mo only bowed slightly, while Zale Aporo bowed his head directly towards the sky in a reverent gesture. Needless to say, just from the attitude of this person in Espada, the five shadows present can roughly judge the identity of the other party. The voice from the sky is probably the mysterious one of Hueco Mundo, Wang Shao of the Void. Minato. Advertisement at this time, Jiraiya's voice was also transmitted to Namikaze Minato's ears by controlling Zara. You said earlier that it was these two guys who talked about intercropping in Spider Mountain that day, right? There was some seriousness in his words. Yep. And Namikaze Minato nodded, knowing what Jiraiya meant in his heart. Not even Namikaze Minato, but the five shadows present seemed to be aware of the situation at this time. Previously, the people of Konoha had received news from Nash and Spider Mountain, that is, the Ghost family and the Virtual family seemed to be discussing what to do. This news is obviously extremely important even to those hidden forces. Even Zu of the Ghost Killing Squad did not care about recuperating or resting, so he chose to go back and report the matter to his lord. And in the eyes of the five shadows, what they are seeing now is obviously the conspiracy of the Ghost clan and the Virtual clan. In the Virtual Circle, the people of these two ethnic groups are obviously creating an unbelievably huge army of ghost giants. No wonder even the Ghost Killing Squad can't sit still. After witnessing this shattering conspiracy with his own eyes, Wu Ying's heart was also extremely heavy at this time. Apart from Yohabak and those Shinigami from Jingling Court, there are actually bugs that have come to the core of the Void Knight Palace. Space Rift? The voice of the existence suspected of being the King of Void continued to come, and his words also gave birth to a bad premonition in the hearts of the ninjas. They can't even take into account the information such as, Yuhabak, revealed in the other party's words. Because it is obvious that the passage they came here, the space rift, has been discovered by the other party. At the same time, Namikaze Minato is also subconsciously watching the movements of Black Death Mo and Zail Aporo. But he was surprised to find that at this time, Zail Aporo and Black Death Mo were motionless as if they really obeyed the orders of the Void King, and even looked at him with Ching Zai's expression like a cat looking at a mouse. At the same time, the voice belonging to the Void King came from above again. Unfortunately, my espadas and I don't have much time for you right now. But since you bugs can't hold back your curiosity, then, let you be trampled to death under the invincible army we created, which is worthy of your identity. 0. For flowers, Yumie, get rid of them. At the same time as the words fell, the voice of the King of Void was silent as if there was really something important. Advertisement, but only a moment later. Yes, your majesty. A clear female voice echoed throughout the entire space. Then, all the escaping ninjas saw the figure of a girl walking slowly above the Zai Palace. Her figure looked extremely petite against the countless giants behind her, but her cold and ruthless eyes and the huge aura that radiated from her body told everyone that she was not as fragile as she seemed on the surface. 0. The next moment, the girl named Ymir took a deep breath. Then, roar. The huge roar sounded like a wild beast, as if the ground and the sky were ripped apart, and along with the roar, it was an unbelievably huge giant. The giant has a skeleton-like face and a female body, and there are things like ribs around her waist, and her body is so huge that even the shadows who have seen the tailed beast are horrified. The size of the body, even if it is bigger than the tailed beast, I don't know how many times. And more importantly, with her roar, the endless giant army that had been spreading towards the end of the world around the Zai Palace moved. Their eyes that were hidden in the shadows glowed with crimson brilliance, and the single horn on the top of their heads looked terrifying but had a subtle beauty against the starlight in this space. They stepped forward, and the breath from their nose was enough to swell the dust below into a huge wave. Boom. 99. Just one step, the huge cigarette holder has risen. With just one movement, it seemed that even the entire ground trembled. Boom. Every step of the way seems to engrave a clear and incomparable speech in the hearts of all the ninjas. Escape, escape, escape. If you don't run away, you will die. Loss. Chapter 106 Extinction Weapons. 2 quarters, please subscribe. Needless to say, just when the endless giant army moved, the 5 shadows had already realized the seriousness of the matter. Those things are really not fake, but living things that can move in the true sense. And what this symbolizes is naturally without words. Everyone, go back immediately. The news here must be taken out. Third Tsuchikage Onogi also roared at this time, and then also directly tied the mark without stopping, and slapped his hands towards the ground. Earth style the art of giant earth mountain. The cage-level Chara directly slammed the hook without hesitation, and then saw a huge mountain rise between the ninjas and the countless giants who slowly started to advance below, lying in the middle of the 2 sides. After seeing Oyemu's actions, the remaining members of the 5 shadows also reacted immediately. Water style big water barrier. Mizukage Yagura also raised his hand to release a huge amount of Chara, and then a huge, 330, water wall that was not inferior to the mountains immediately stood up. Magnet-style attachment gold wall art. 99. And Fengying Luasha is manipulating the surrounding sand to build a huge wall of gold dust. Obviously, the filmmakers made the exact same judgment at this time. As for the other 2 shadows, they didn't do anything, but led the ninjas to retreat to the rear. They knew that if they had been discovered, they must immediately retreat out of the space rift. So the ninjas naturally fled to the rear without hesitation, and while running away, these ninjas who were undoubtedly the elite in the ninja village also turned their heads subconsciously to look at the endless giant army. I saw that within a short period of time after they retreated, the giant army had already arrived in front of the 3 huge barriers made by the 3 shadows. At the same time, Earth-style Earth explosion technique. Water-style water blast. Magnet-style shaken explosion. At this time, the power of the 3 shadows as cage-level powerhouses also shows July. Of course, what they set up is not just a pure barrier, but a follow-up method is set in it. So as the 3 of them slapped the ninja seal, the huge rocky mountain, the water wall, and the high mountain stacked with gold dust exploded at the same time. Boom. As the rocks scattered, the explosive force made the surrounding smoke sockets appear richer and taller. But just a moment later, the 5 shadows saw a scene that made them even more unbelievable. I saw the few giants walking in the front, and they were seriously injured because of the attack of the 3 shadows. Their bodies were ripped apart and even exposed bones and flesh. However, they seem to move on without feeling. Advertisement. And every time they advance, the wounds on their bodies are constantly being repaired. This is the physique of the Ghost Clan. And Namikaze Minato, who has personally fought the ghosts more than once, also recognized this iconic self-healing ability at this time. These giants actually possess the physique of the ghost family. Stop attacking. Full retreat. So at this time, even if the other 5 shadows don't know what the physique of the Ghost Clan is, they at least know that ordinary attacks are meaningless to these giants. Without thinking and pain, such a huge size, just. Onogi gave a wry smile, and there was only one word in his heart, one by one to eliminate weapons. He has no doubt that the endless giant army is enough to conquer all countries in the whole world, and while reducing all civilizations, it can turn all living beings into lambs raised by their masters. The key point is that the so-called five shadows can't stop the army that is so huge that there is no concept of quantity at all. Even if their power might actually wipe out a giant, so what? In the face of this number, the police say that there are 5 shadows, even if it is 10 shadows and 100 shadows, rough shadows. But it was when Onogi ordered everyone to retreat immediately, he suddenly saw a very strange scene. In the distance, the only giant unimaginably huge, the super giant who had previously been transformed from the girl called Ymir, began to grow slowly. An enemy. 0. With the continuous opening of the bacteria, a giant shaped like a monkey and full of hair slowly appeared from it. Then, the monkey-like giant raised his hand slightly. In its palm, there is a huge stone. Then, boom. With the huge sound that almost broke the sound barrier, the stone was thrown by it. Everyone, get away. So Onogi immediately roared, but the boulder had already smashed towards the ninja team. And it seems to be due to the fact that the force of throwing is too great and the speed is too fast, the stone ignited a crimson fire in the air. But at this time, with a kunai flying towards the stone that was burning like a meteor, Namikaze Minato's figure appeared in front of the stone in the next moment. Flying Thunder God Turn. Advertisement. In a flash, his figure disappeared with the stone in place, and after a while, his figure was hit again, and the huge stone had been sent to the far end by the technique of Flying Thunder God. Quote. The falling of the stone caused a huge explosion and vibration on the ground, and the huge smoke and dust rising in the distance can also see the power of this terrible blow. But it is clear that this blow is only the beginning. Taste. Yesterday. Because with a crisp sound, Ymir's body has a full 8 gourds followed by 0. As the 8 bacteria shattered in turn, 8 giants with different shapes moved along with them. Whether it is a giant in armor, a super giant with no skin that can clearly see the scorching bones and muscles, or a giant hammer with a war hammer, without exception, they all exude an extremely powerful breath. It's the news from the guard over the space rift. The space rift suddenly closed just around the corner. 33. In other words, they are now literally trapped in Hueco Mundo. Namikaze Minato couldn't lie about this kind of news, so they knew exactly what it meant. At this time, the other 4 shadows also used ninjutsu to block the pursuit of the giants and leaned over. At this time, he suddenly felt that a kunai that he had engraved with the imprint of the Flying Thunder God had changed, and he immediately activated the Flying Thunder God to send the kunai to his side. Thank you for reading this story at fictionzone.net. Your support enables us to keep the site running. Buzz. Namikaze Minato gritted his teeth. And as the 9 giants were bred on Ymir's body, Namikaze Minato, who had just used the Flying Thunder God to avoid the blow of the beast giant, also had a solemn expression. But what Namikaze Minato didn't expect is, at this time, this 2.6 kunwu was also tied with a small scroll. Shadow. What happened? When Namikaze Minato opened the scroll, his expression suddenly froze. After hearing his words, the other 4 shadows also sank in an instant. The goal of their retreat now is nothing more than to leave Hueco Mundo from the space rift and inform the ninja world of the horrible facts they saw in Hueco Mundo. But now, the opening and closing of the space rift undoubtedly shows that their only hope has been wiped out. He can also understand that the 9 giants bred by Ymir are obviously different types from the mass-produced giants below. Judging from the blow just now, any one of these 9 giants is probably an extremely difficult enemy. Chapter 107. 5 Great Ninja Village Elite vs Giant Army. 3/4. Please subscribe. After realizing that he and others had been sunburned to death in the virtual circle, Reikage also gritted his teeth and watched the giant army that was still marching towards them in the distance. The reason why the space rift was closed, they could guess with their eyes closed. This must be the hand of the Void King. Leave us here and try to kill us like worms. Thinking of the name of the bug, in the words of the King of Void before, the movie does not doubt that the other party has such a bad taste. But even Reikage's anger rose in his heart, but he knew that their current status is really no district police like a bug. Continue to stay here, and sooner or later they will be trampled to death by the giant army. Of course, everyone present was also a ninja of rhythm, and there was no fear of death. On the contrary, the current situation, which is undoubtedly a desperate situation, has actually inspired them to fight in their hearts. They are very clear that their death is not the key is that the news of this endless giant army must be sent back to the ninja world. Since you can't leave, then, the battle to the end. Reikage 06 While speaking, he also raised his hand and turned around the lightning-style armor that he had. Don't retreat, everyone, with Laozi here to stop them. While talking, Reikage also has a lightning-style chara with a huge explosive hook, and it turns out that the lightning-style chara mode has been turned on. Compared with the previous fight with Zaraki Kenpachi, this Reikage's lightning-style chakra mode is also significantly more proficient. At this time, the shining electric light almost solidifies around his body. HMPH, Cloud Shinobi's kid, he still has a bit of a backbone. As for third Tsuchikage Onogi, he chuckled lightly, and then he also slowly flew into the air. It's too ridiculous to want to defeat the old man in this way. The will of stone is not something that can be broken so easily. He also has chara rising up on his body, and it is obviously full of fighting spirit. The so-called shadow originally has the consciousness to sacrifice for the village. Advertisement. Afterwards, Keisuke Rasa and Mizukaji Yagura also made preparations for battle as usual. With the expressions of several shadows, the other ninjas present also had blood in their hearts, and their fighting spirit rose. As a result, they are also killing the almost endless giant army. As the ninjas came into contact with the huge giants, the battle broke out. Boom! Exclamation mark. The size of the giants is naturally not false. When seeing the ninjas rushing forward, the giants walking at the forefront are directly punched down. The huge body corresponds to the huge impact, which leaves a huge mark on the ground in an instant, and the ninja who can't dodge is naturally inhuman the moment he is hit by the giant's fist. Fire style the art of balsam. Cloud Shinobi Secret Sword Thunder Stream. 99. But at the same time, there are also many ninjas who successfully attack giants with the help of ninjutsu and their own diligent physical skills. But as always, with the smoke and dust rising, the attacked giant continued to attack as if it didn't feel the slightest pain, and the wounds he was hit were recovering rapidly at an almost bizarre speed. The only exception is the giants who come into contact with the 7-cage level powerhouses. Lightning style ninjutsu 800 breaks. I saw that at this moment, the thunder figure with lightning style Zara erupted in front of a giant like lightning. When his hand was like a knife, he struck from the side, and the body of the giant in front of him was instantly cut in half. On the other hand, the situation of the remaining few shadows is also similar. Flying Thunder God Second Duan, Luobianwan. With the second stage of Flying Thunder God, Namikaze Minato, who came to the top of the giant's head, pressed the screw pill in his hand, and the giant below was torn apart by the huge Zara from the top of his head. Water style Rough Fu Jiao. Advertisement. The Yagura seal summoned countless shark-shaped water bombs made of water, directly gnawing the giant in front of him into slag in a moment. Magnet style gold dust binding technique. Luo Sha manipulated a huge amount of alluvial gold to wrap the entire body of the giant in front of him, and then directly kneaded it into powder. Sure enough, if you just add the blood of ghosts, is the giant form to deal with cage level too reluctant? Of course, the shadow and ninjas are naturally going all out to carry out this desperate death battle, but Yi Lin on the other side is simply observing the situation. Of course, there is no need to say more, everything this time is of course all the pictures he sketched. This so-called Hueco Mundo is of course the puppet realm, the path of the first ancestor, that he soon acquired. After all, in this puppet realm, the giant puppets that Ymir made were not only unlimited in number, but also did not need to consume points, which was equivalent to an unlimited number of free experimental machines. After Yi Lin obtained this puppet realm, he naturally began to experiment. After the experiment, the current army of giants is the best result of his test. Using the blood of ghosts as the raw material, the giant 330 is probably around B level. Yi Lin calls them nothing. Dirt giant. Ghost type. 0. Later, Yi Lin decisively led the ninjas to this area. It's easy for him and doesn't even require any effort. After all, the Ninja World Association is like a sieve to him, whether it is the information provided by the ghosts of the moon and the major ninja villages or the grass ninja village itself in the Ninja World Association. There are too many means available. After the current test, Yi Lin can see the actual situation clearly. Due to the powerful resilience brought by the blood of the ghosts themselves, the actual combat power of these giants will be much stronger than that of the B rank. Even the B rank Jonin is very difficult to defeat one if he knows the weakness. As for the A level elite Jonin, these giants also have the opportunity to cause kills. But only the S level cage level powerhouse, with the ability of these giants, seems a bit difficult. But even so, Yi Lin was satisfied enough. After all, this is not a puppet drawn by Fantong, but he made it himself, and theoretically it can be made infinitely. In this way, it's time to test the strength of the 9 giants and Ymir. Chapter 108 Captain Assembles, complete. 4 quarters, please subscribe. After testing the strength of the innocent giant ghost type, Yi Lin naturally wanted to test the strength of the 9 giants and Ymir. And as his words fell, I saw on the battlefield. Roar. Accompanied by the 9 giants that the business house on Ymir gave birth to, each of them let out a huge roar, and they also fell from the sky one after another. The huge bodies slammed down like a meteorite, and their targets were naturally the 7-cage level powerhouses. At the same time, the 7-cage level powerhouses can also feel the huge momentum and dangerous atmosphere of the 9 giants. Needless to say, they also know, these 9 giants are completely different from those ordinary giants. But after a while, as the giant warhammer first waved its hammer towards fourth rakeage, the violent roar of the battle and the violent vibrations that spread around became more intense. At the same time, after watching the 9 giants and the cage-level powerhouses fight together, Yi Lin also began to observe. And he soon discovered that the strength of the 9 giants is slightly subtle. It's not wrong to say it's an S-class, but it's a little too common. It must be said that the strength and ability of the giant series of puppets are indeed somewhat ordinary. The deterrent and destructive power of the 9 giants is naturally unparalleled. For example, the huge body of the giant armor and the sturdy armor, a person can easily flatten a city. But the key point is that the height and strength of the giants are doomed that their fighting method can only be a powerful fight without special ability. To put it directly, it is only flat but lacks in skills. Therefore, although they are indeed cage level in terms of destructive power, they obviously do not have an advantage in actual combat. Therefore, at this time, even with 9 enemies and 7, the battle situation was still stalemate for a while. But even so, the situation of the ninjas at this time is obviously quite bad. 7 cage level powerhouses are delayed by the 9 giants, and there are countless giant armies around to put pressure on them. After seeing this scene, Yi Lin then murmured in his heart. But then, how should it end this time? It has to be said that he himself did not expect that the 5 shadows would all enter the puppet realm. His original idea was to use a little ninja to test the strength of the giant. But now, with the entry of Wying and Jiraiya Orochimaru, Yi Lin has a headache. Advertisement. Because if he really let Ymir and the 9 giants hook all, then the ninjas present would probably not be able to escape. After all, to be honest, Wying, an ordinary cage-level powerhouse, is no longer a difficult problem for him to solve. As long as he is willing to rhyme with Kaido puppets and Ymir puppets, or use Yuhabox temporary materials, then he can easily push any of the 5 major ninja villages. To put it a little bit too much, it is not impossible for Yi Lin to push the entire ninja world without intervention from the 3 immortal lands, Sage of 6 Paths, or the absolute, evil god, Shinigami hidden in the dark. But the point is, there is no profit. By killing the 5 shadows, the most you can reap is a batch of cage-level puppets. But the key point is that S-level combat power is really not something that is scarce for the current Yi Lin. The existence of the 5 great ninja villages on the bright side can actually help me attract those guys who are hidden under the ninja world. On the contrary, Yi Lin is very clear about his current advantage, that is, his existence is still hidden in the dark so far. On the bright side, it was the non-existent, Jingling Ting, and world government, who cast all the blame for him. But if he did jump to the front, that would be a different story. After all, he doesn't really have the heritage of the ancient organization, Jingling Ting, world government. After all, everything is just an empty shell he put up. Even if he pushes the ninja world flatly, he will not be able to rule, but will expose his existence and attract absolute hatred from the entire ninja world. And to know whether it is Sage of 6 Paths or Ju, Yi Lin believes that what they have in hand must be enough to threaten him. After all, from the actual situation, Yi Lin has to use the remaining 2 opportunities of Yuhabok to enter the SSSS level. So, before he really has the power to flatten everything, Yi Lin doesn't think it's a good idea to let Wying stay here forever. However, if they let them go directly, Yi Lin felt that it was too cheap for them. There were not many chances for these 5 to enter the set at the same time. But it was at this time. The 15-day deadline has arrived, and the traditional mall has been refreshed. Number of refresh items, 41. Fantong's sudden voice made Yi Lin's expression startled. To be honest, because of the wonderful journey in the ancient country of Lulan, Yi Lin really forgot about the refresh of the points mall for a while. So at this time, he also seemed to feel something and looked at the system list subconsciously. Advertisement. Then, he also saw that the 4 items in the points mall were now completely new. The Spear of Wen's High Mountain C-Class item 500 points. Yasuo's Long Shao D level props 100 points. Colorful Array for Cabinet Display C level props 500 points. Broken B Shinigami Series S Class Puppet Guardian 13 Team 5000 points. 6. This is, quote, the 3 props in front of Yi Lin are naturally skipped selectively. And the last S-rank puppet made Yi Lin's heart move. Of course, it wasn't the S-Class puppet itself that moved his heart. Broken B, the puppet of the 13th team of the Guardian. Because of this puppet's special identity, Yi Lin immediately noticed a key problem. Tantong, I'm going to use the designated puppet drawing card to assist in drawing good puppets. Open black lens bracket host uses the special item, designated puppet extraction card. Please select the puppet type to be designated close black lens bracket. Yi Lin was actually hesitating about what puppet he should draw for this special item that he got shortly after. In his heart, he actually wanted to extract the 4 Emperors series of puppets. After all, from the perspective of strength, the value of his direct choice to extract the 4 Emperors puppet is undoubtedly the greatest, so that he can obtain an SS-level puppet almost 100%. But now, he has changed his mind. The puppet category I want to extract is Guardian 13. Host uses the designated puppet extraction card, and the extracted puppet category is Guardian 13 Team. Congratulations to host, get the S-Class puppet, Heben killing Shiro. Congratulations to host, for completing the 2nd stage of the special achievement, Captain Assemble. Congratulations to host, you have obtained the achievement reward, Puppet Realm, Jingling Court, Ear. Chapter 109 Behind Mizuka's Yagura, Nagato and Akatsuki. 1 quarter, please subscribe. Open black lens bracket in Hueco Mundo, the battle between ninjas and giants naturally continues. It has to be said that the elites of the 5 great ninja villages have indeed shown the strength worthy of their elite title. Although the opponent is a giant, a powerful war weapon they have never seen before, the ninjas who have been on the battlefield for a long time still rely on the matching of ninjutsu and taiju to fight them fiercely. The ninjas of the Grandmaster Enchantment joined forces to erect a powerful barrier to stop the giant in a very short period of time. And the powerful ninjas on the lethal ninjutsu also quickly recognized the fact that giants are difficult to kill with ordinary means, so they were quickly divided into two queues, one of which could cast spells such as Black Thunder, or it is Blood Continent, ninjutsu with powerful lethality, attack as the main attacker. Correspondingly, some ninjas who can only use the ordinary 5 elements ninjutsu are used as assistants to feint or disrupt attacks, hindering the intervention of other giants. However, even the well-trained ninjas had a sense of despair in their hearts over time. And the reason is simple, because they know very well that the battle will never end. The nearly endless giant army like Wang Yang was still moving their heads under the dark starry sky in the distance, and they were completely surrounded at this time. Even if they have barely killed dozens of giants so far, they are nothing compared to the 330-strong number. Especially as the battle progresses, many of the ninjas are already on the verge of exhaustion, and the physical strength of taiju ninjas is gradually approaching the limit. In this case, no matter which ninja knows their ending, they will fight to the death until they die. Even if the ninjas themselves are not afraid of death, they cannot help but feel hopeless and powerless for this almost doomed ending. What makes them even more desperate is that at this time, even the ninja world's consistent Dinghai Shenzhen, 2 of the 5 shadows who are famous in the ninja world and Konoha Hassanin, are obviously caught in a hard fight at this time. Boom. With thunder and lightning wrapped around his arms, 4th Raikage's figure evaded the hammer of the giant warhammer in front of him at a speed that was difficult to detect with the naked eye, but at the same time his attack was directly blocked by the giant armor that came suddenly. Boom. The giant warhammer of the warhammer smashed to the ground, enough that the power of the mountain and the earth to break the ground instantly caused a terrifying huge pothole to appear in the endless desolate desert. The armor of the giant armored body that was directly hit by 4th Raikage's attack was not damaged at all. Instead, he clenched his iron fist and directly smashed 4th Raikage into the sand. Immediately after that, the armored giant immediately punched the ground. But at the same time, water style the art of the great shark bullet. The shark-shaped water bomb was shot straight down from above, and it was Mizukage Yagura who had arrived at this time. And when he pushed the giant of armor back in an instant, there was another huge figure on one side, with sharp claws and sharp teeth, who swiftly swept over in a crawling posture. That was also the giant of jaws. Advertisement. It raised its paw and waved, and it was heading towards Yagura. Boom. Seeing that the sharp claws were about to stab Yagura, Luo Sha, who was fighting with the giantess at the side, also stretched out his hand suddenly, and the surging sand surged from the ground, piercing the jaws of the giant's jaws. Claws stop easily. This series of confrontations was just for a moment, and 4th Raikage also took this opportunity to jump up in the sand, smashing the sand heavily. Tricky guy. He frowned and glanced at the battle situation, rarely admitting the difficulty of the enemy. Because this battle situation is a rare battle situation in the ninja world before. You must know that even before the battle with the Gote 13 and the 7 warlords of the sea, the battles of the cage-level powerhouses were mostly one-on-one. This is not a customary rule, but because the number of cage-level powerhouses is often not too many, and this kind of police ninja is not a fool, and will not fall into the encirclement of the same level powerhouse. Among. But this time is different from this battle, it is an unprecedented chaos. The 9 giants did not have any one-on-one idea, but directly chose to fight in chaos. In the chaotic battle, the 5 shadows side that ninjutsu suffers from will naturally tend to be at a disadvantage. Even at this time, they have already discovered the characteristics of the 9 giants that will be flat most of the time, but in the chaos of war, this kind of thing that can barely be called a weakness can't be used at all. Yes, Yagura also nodded solemnly at this time. At this time, the strange rims that had appeared before AGCG during the meeting flickered faintly in his eyes. And compared to the previous time, his eyes changed more obviously this time, so that at a certain moment his eyes looked like reincarnation eyes. Nagato, control Zerera. At the same time, in Mist Ninja Village, in a secret room. Behind Nagato, who has been controlling Yagura, absolutely, Yahiko and Konan are also standing behind Nagato. But it is worth mentioning that at this time Konan and Yahiko have a very strange mark on the forehead, and Nagato's face is even more new. His body, which had been absorbed by Geto statue and was almost skinny, had now become as explosive and perfectly curved as a cheetah. His skin seemed to have become whiter, and his crimson hair, which originally belonged to the Uzumaki clan, turned a little pale. Especially on his forehead, 2 horn-like bulges slowly appeared. Advertisement. As a whole, it looks like a different person. Nagato. The power of Senra's fruit and your fusion have not yet been completed, control Zara carefully. Absolutely shouted Nagato softly, but at this time, Nagato's expression was a bit cold. But it's not just him, even Yahiko's expression next to him is not good looking at this time. Not long ago, with the help of Ju, Nagato took the immature Senra fruit left by Kagaya. Although the power of Senluo's fruit has not been fully integrated with Nagato so far, his own strength has already undergone a change in the open air. So not long ago, a few of them secretly sneaked into Mist Ninja Village and controlled 4th Mizukage Yagura with the help of some AII. And what they do is to master the most core information about the ninja world at the first time. But they didn't expect that the first key information they learned after controlling Yagura was so explosive. Through Yagura's eyes, they can also clearly see the situation inside the virtual circle. They also knew that the ninjas present were already a very elite group of ninjas in the 5 great ninja villages. But in the face of these monsters, these elite ninjas can only do this now. If these monsters leave the legendary Hueco Mundo, sealed by the Jingling court, what kind of ending and what kind of terrible war the ninja world will suffer. Yahiko feels chills just imagining it. You know, the Yahiko trio are now blackened, but in essence their purpose is still to stop the war in the ninja world, but the method has changed from dialogue to power rule. But the huge army of giants that Hueco Mundo is now rhyming with is undoubtedly giving them a stab in the heart. The existence of this horrific army of monsters is like a joke. So in the face of what Hueco Mundo sees, Yahiko, the de facto leader, can't keep his cool, let alone Nagato, who has hated war since childhood. Keep calm, Nagato, don't expose our existence, otherwise, if those guys find out, the peace of the ninja world will really not be realized. At this time, after hearing Ju's advice, Nagato finally calmed down. Yep. He responded lightly, and then increased Ma's control over chakra. So, the changes in Yagura's eyes gradually became silent. Chapter 110. Since you take the initiative to send the tailed beast, then I'm welcome. 2 quarters, please subscribe. Changes in Yagura came and went quickly, and 4th Reikage was so busy watching the battle that he didn't notice any changes in Yagura. It's annoying, if it's one-on-one. Laozi will definitely take care of that guy. After hearing Reikage's words, Nagato, who was controlling Yagura, did not reply, but nodded silently. After manipulating Yagura to fight for so long, he naturally discovered the characteristic that the 9 giants can only level A. If it is one-on-one, he himself has more than 70% certainty that he can control Yagura to defeat one of the 9 giants head-on. But in the current chaos, the situation is completely different. Just like the previous Reikage, the 5 shadows will fall into the siege of 2 or even 3 giants if they are not careful. If I had to say it, only the 3 Konoha ninjas, Jiraiya, Namikaze Minato and Orochimaru, who had a tacit understanding before, performed better. At this time, Orochimaru and Jiraiya have already summoned their own summoning beasts, Toad Bunta, and Man. With Namikaze Minato's Flying Thunder God technique, they fought against the 4 giants of Super Giant, the Ancestor Giant, Beast Giant, and Attacking Giant, and they have not suffered a loss for the time being. But even so, Nagato had faintly sensed the problem at this time. These 9 monsters don't look like 9 separate individuals at all. Even though they are in chaos, they can perfectly capture any opportunity. It's almost like the same person is manipulating them. I have to say that if Yi Lin could know what Nagato was thinking at this time, he would have to say, FK. 0. Because Nagato's thoughts at this time are undoubtedly very close to the truth. In essence, the 9 giants are controlled by Yi Lin with Tenseigen, and they are naturally matched. And if Nagato really uses this as the core inference to deepen his reasoning and open his mind, then maybe he can really smell the clues about Yi Lin. But the point is, even if Nagato is the owner of Samsara I, and his current behavior is quite similar to Yi Lin. But even so, he couldn't really imagine this fact. No one will believe that this whole Hueco Mundo, and everything that has happened so far is actually a fictional, empty shell. This is not the fault of Nagato or Yahiko, but except Yi Lin, no one in this world can jump the shackles of the world to think about problems. To put it directly, it is not enough vision. So in Nagato's view, the reason for everything can only be because. Could it be that gigantic dude continues to be the key? Nagato felt like he had found a blind spot. Advertisement. That is the ancestor Ymir, who has always been located on the periphery of the battlefield, overlooking the battlefield with a huge body that almost covers the sky. Probably so. And after hearing Nagato's words, Conan next to him is also a rare opening. These 9 monsters are all born from the knock on her body. Maybe she is like the queen of the swarm. These 9 monsters are her guards. 93. She controls the actions of these 9 monsters, and although she is huge, she may not have a strong fighting power. As long as she can be killed, these monsters will stop moving. The more they talked, the more likely the 3 of them felt. And listening to the discussion of the 3, the eyes of Ju behind them flickered. Mizukage Yagura is undoubtedly an extremely important pawn for them. It is not only the important 3 Tails Jinchuriki, but also through this Mizukage, they can easily understand all the changes and secrets of the ninja world, and they can also know the news of the mysterious forces of Jingling at the first time. But at the same time, Ju did not speak to stop the 3 of them. Because now the Hueco Mundo thing is also an unbearable terrible fact for him. He asked himself inwardly, and finally came to a conclusion that is, the army of White Zetsu left by his mother Otsutsugi Kagaya to deal with the enemy from outside the sky was completely incomparable in strength. Hueco Mundo now rivals these giant armies. Try it, said softly. If the guess is wrong, Nagato, you kill Yagura yourself, don't let him fall into the hands of the Hueco Mundo. After the death of Jinchuriki, Chara of the tailed beast will also be reborn in other parts of the ninja world after a period of time. This is the rule set by the Sage of Six Paths. When the time comes, we'll just catch 3 tails. Nagato will soon be able to fully absorb the power of Senra's fruit. By that time, catching a wild-tailed beast won't be much of a hassle. And as Ju also gave a positive answer, Nagato no longer hesitated. Lord Reikage. Yagura suddenly said to Reikage at this time, you helped me delay the 3 giants for a while. I'm going to take a gamble. While he was talking, he also looked at the huge ancestor Ymir in the distance. Gamble. And when Reikage was still a little confused, Yagura raised his hand slightly and bit his thumb. Advertisement. 0. For flowers. Then, he made a mark lightly, and then slapped his abdomen suddenly. As if some kind of seal had been unlocked, the chara on him began to increase suddenly. And under its feet, the phantom of a huge monster instantly appeared. It was composed of countless water-like Zara, a scaly giant tortoise with 3 tails in its life. That's 3 tails Isozuke. When seeing this giant Zara tortoise, Reikage also naturally recognized that this is one of the 2-tailed beasts owned by Mist Ninja, 3 tails Isofu. Did this guy Yagura actually choose to become Jinchuriki? And this situation naturally surprised Reikage. For a ninja village, tail beasts and shadows are extremely important things. And adhering to the idea that 2 goose eggs can't be put in the same basket, most of ninja village's shadow and Jinchuriki will be 2 people. After all, Jinchuriki is sometimes more like a strategic weapon for shinobi village, while shadow is a leader. The concept of the 2 is completely different, and their application in war is also different. But now, Yagura herself has somehow become the Jinchuriki of the 3 tails, which is surprising enough. However, when the movie was surprised, the 3 giants, the armored giant, the warhammer giant and the jaw giant, had all come to him. On the other hand, Yagura charged towards the ancestor Ymir with his feet on 3 tails Isofu. Boom. As a tailed beast, Isofu's huge body is even worse than that of ordinary innocent giants. With the huge Zara surrounding it, the giant's army was suddenly rushed out by it. A road. But at this time, Yi Lin, who was controlling the puppet of the first ancestor Ymir, just looked calmly at the petite Yagura below. That is, at this time, he could clearly see that the eyes that he stroked were actually purple, and there were countless circles filling his pupils like annual rings. So that's the case, Yagura, Mizukage, was finally manipulated like the original. And if the eye of reincarnation, isn't it Obito, but Nagato? Yi Lin, who was familiar with the plot, guessed the existence of Nagato almost in an instant, and even guessed a lot with their thoughts. Even if Yagura dies, Chara of the tailed beast will return to the ninja world, is that the idea? But, this is not the ninja world. Whispering to himself, a smile appeared on Yi Lin's mouth. Originally, this scene is almost over, but since you all took the initiative to give gifts, then I will be disrespectful. Loss. Chapter 111 The Absolute Power of Ymir. 3/4, please subscribe. Even though the situation on the battlefield is extremely chaotic, Yagura's actions at this time are clearly seen by all the ninjas. After all, Isofu's huge body as a tailed beast and the huge Zara are not to be mentioned, but the presence is still very strong. At this time, seeing Yagura's foot on Isofu rushing towards the ancestor Ymir, all the ninjas also had a sense of pride in their hearts. In particular, several of the shadows guessed Yagura's thoughts in an instant. So, ninja, lion's hairstyle. I saw Jiraiya's white hair stretched out and wrapped around the beast in front of him, and Namikaze Minato also took this opportunity to dance a rhyme and shout to the ninjas behind him. All Konoha immediately helped Mizukage. And almost at the same time, Tsuchikage Onogi, who was fighting the giant car, Reikage, who was struggling with the 347, and the 3 giants, and Luo Sha, who was fighting with the giantess, also barely took time off in the battle. She shouted similar words to the ninjas behind. All members of Rock Shinobi, help Mizukage immediately. All the members of Cloud Shinobi, help the movie now. All Sand Shinobi members, help Mizukage immediately. And as the 3 shadows jointly issued an order, the other ninjas naturally understood what the shadows meant. Mizukage's raid on the ancestor Ymir is likely to become the most critical winner of this battle. If his guesses are correct and the raid is successful, there might be a chance for the ninjas. But if Mizukage's raid failed, it would undoubtedly mean that the battle situation that was already on the verge of a limit on the ninja side would collapse completely. Therefore, all the ninjas except those who still maintain the self-protection barrier, almost all the remaining ninjas use their remaining chara at the same time, and then seal at high speed. So in the next moment, countless general-skilled shurikens were flying hooks. The aggressive ninjutsu from all directions counted the giants around Yagura who were trying to stop him, and then a large number of ninjutsu covered Yagura and came directly to the place very close to the ancestor Ymir. Then, in the mouth of 3 tails Isofu, a dark red-tailed beast jade slowly began to condense and form. Facing Ymir above, the tailed beast jade gradually condensed into a larger and larger size. Advertisement. A huge amount of Zara and destructive power began to erupt as the size of the tailed beast jade reached its limit. But it is also at this time. Boom. Everyone saw that Ymir, who had always been like a giant statue above, moved. There was no extra movement, she just raised her fist. But it's just such a simple action, but because of that huge body, it seems that the whole world is shaking at this moment. The air seemed to be overwhelmed and made a sound of being torn. As Ymir clenched his fist, the gust of wind driven by her fingers almost made the desert below a few points out of thin air. At the same time, the tailed beast Jade in Fu's mouth shot forward and cut. And facing the tailed beast Jade, Ymir's fist swung down. Then, the huge explosion was hooked on Ymir's fist almost instantly, and the huge smoke seed and terrifying energy fluctuations spread across the sky in an instant. Did you get it? And looking at this scene, the ninjas also have this idea in their hearts. After all, that is the representative skill of the tailed beast Yuichi one-tailed beast. It is described as a symbol of destruction in the historical records of the major ninja villages in the ninja world. A terrifying move that is enough to destroy a town with one blow. But the next moment, they were stunned. Because the thick smoke generated by the huge explosion and shock wave was directly torn apart by the huge force in the next moment. From the smoke, Ymir's huge fist still fell like a giant mountain. And on that fist, not even the slightest scar was seen. The tailed beast Jade, which is enough to destroy a city, is like a light bubble, without any effect. The next moment, with the strange roar of Isofu, Ymir's fist smashed directly to the ground. Then, a roar that was far more exaggerated than the explosion of the tailed beast Jade came, and a huge shock wave swept the entire battlefield in an instant. In front of this huge shock wave, the desert below was instantly blown up by countless sand and dust, and even the ninjas who were far apart, even if they had used chakra to stick their feet to the ground, they still couldn't avoid being blown away. Advertisement. But it is precisely because of this that they can clearly see the terrible scene caused by Ymir's punch. The earth was torn apart, the clouds in the sky were annihilated by the huge airflow, and countless sandstorms swept around. And in the desert where the fist was directly hit, a bottomless huge pothole appeared. As for 4th Mizukage Yagura and 3 Tails Isofu, they were already gone. As for their results, there is no need to say anything more. With this blow, apart from death, there can be no other solution. 66. Looking at this scene, the ninjas couldn't even speak. They are used to seeing the huge destruction caused by all kinds of ninjutsu, but what Ymir is showing is obviously not that simple. The rhythm she shows is pure to the extreme, strength crushing. If there is a mountain in front of you, you can annihilate the mountain with one punch. If the sea is blocked in front of you, then punch the sea apart. There is no skill, just pure power. But this kind of pure power is also the biggest reason for the powerless feeling in the hearts of the ninjas at this time. Because this kind of power is the most straightforward, compared to genjutsu or ninjutsu, this sheer power makes them not even able to find any way to deal with 2.6. And that's pretty much the truth. With Ymir's attack, the formation of the entire ninja team was disrupted, and the pressure of the battle finally broke through the limit. The first to reach the limit is 4th Reikage even if he is a character who refuses to admit defeat, but in the case of Mizukage's death in battle, the pressure he faced with 1 to 3 is obviously beyond the limit. So at this time, he was also the first to show Bayo's defeat among the cage-level powerhouses. Boom. As the claws of the giant jaws slapped him heavily to the ground, Reikage's appearance of vomiting blood undoubtedly indicated that the balance on the battlefield was completely out of balance. But that's when the ninjas can't stand it anymore. Sit on the frosty sky, Hirenmaru. 99. Instant open. Chapter 112 The Two Captains. Isn't Jingling Ting an evil force? 44. Please subscribe. Sit on the frosty sky, Hirenmaru. Just when the situation of the ninjas was about to collapse, with 2 such sounds, reinforcements had already arrived. I saw above the sky, a dragon made of ice knocked back the giant armored in front of Reikage. And behind the ice dragon, a short-statured, silver-haired boy wearing a white feather woven is standing in the air holding a great sword. At the same time, a figure of Ling appeared in front of the giant jaw who was planning to give Reikage the final blow. It was a short-haired girl with a bun in her head, and she was also wearing haori. Moment. On her body, the pure white spiritual pressure turned into a wave of air that erupted continuously, and when this petite girl took out her foot, she kicked the giant jaw away. And until the 2 giants were knocked back to the ground, the ninjas present were still in a dream. Especially that Reikage, whose situation was already extremely dangerous, was even more confused at this time. But the next moment, among the ninjas who responded quickly, such as Namikaze Minato and Onogi, had already noticed the clothes on these 2. On the back of the silver-haired boy's pure white haori, the words, plus, are engraved impressively. Behind the short-haired girl's haori, there is the word, 2. And whether it is haori or 06 is a symbolic number, it is not something unfamiliar in the current ninja world. So all ninjas naturally understood what the identity of the 2 people who came suddenly was. The captain of the Gote 13th Division, the 2nd Division and the 10th Division. While understanding this identity, even the 5 shadows didn't know what to say at this time. Because they can't understand what is going on right now. Not to mention that the 2 new captains who suddenly appeared have almost no information in their previous intelligence, just talking about their relationship, in the eyes of the 5 great ninja villages and even the entire ninja world, Godu. The 13 teams are undoubtedly counted in the hostile force category. But now, these 2 have clearly appeared to rescue them. This kind of weird situation of, I was attacked by an enemy, and then saved by another enemy, also made everyone's heart a little unable to reflect. And I have to say that the only exception is Konoha's 3 cage level powerhouses. Especially Namikaze Minato, his eyes twinkled even more at this time. He was the first person to come into contact with the ghost-killing team, and he was also the one who experienced the Battle of Nation Spider Mountain. After that battle, they learned of the existence of the Ghost Clan and the imaginary clan within, Hueco Mundo. At the same time, they also obtained a lot of key information from the Yenju of the ghost-killing team. Advertisement. And one of the very important pieces of information is the relationship between Jingling and Hueco Mundo. The relationship between the two is an old enemy, almost absolute hostility. The ghosts that devoured their souls were sealed in Hueco Mundo by the Spirit King of Jingling Court. And from that time on, Namikaze Minato and Sarutobi Hiizaki had the same guess, that the 13th team of Gote and even the entire Jinglingte might not be the evil organization they originally thought. On the contrary, Namikaze Minato believes that the other party probably doesn't care about the 5 great ninja village at all, and there is no malicious intent. This ancient and long-standing organization may not be an evil organization. Their sudden actions in the ninja world in the past year are probably not due to some kind of malicious intent, but simply because of the seal of Hueco Mundo. And soon, the words followed by the 2 captains of the Gote 13 who suddenly appeared almost confirmed Namikaze Minato's guess. The ninja of the ninja world. You dare to step into the core area of Hueco Mundo, do you want to die? The short-haired girl raised her brows, and a cold voice entered the ears of all the ninjas. Broken B, the police said this, they are fighting against Hueco Mundo, anyway, and it can be regarded as involving a lot of power of Hueco Mundo and the Ghost Clan for us. The silver-haired boy beside him said softly. Later, he also looked at the huge Ymir and the countless giant army in the distance. His expression showed a dignified expression. Has the ancestor Ymir also broken through the seal? At the same time as he said this, he seemed to have suddenly woken up and stopped talking. Then, he looked at the ninjas below. Ninjas, come to us immediately, we will send you off, Hueco Mundo. He didn't give any explanation, but his previous words and attitude had already made Namikaze Minato almost certain that his previous guess was right. He remembered very clearly that when the situation when they came to Hueco Mundo was discovered, the Void King clearly said a word. Besides the Shinigami of Yohabak and Jingling, there are actually other bugs that have been hooked in the Zai Palace. And with the help of this sentence and the current exchange between the 2 Jingling captains, it is enough for Namikaze Minato to clearly understand the current situation. The seal given by the Spirit King to Hueco Mundo was broken by someone not long ago, which directly led to Hueco Mundo and the ghosts trying to break out of Hueco Mundo and turn the world into their food. And the name of the Spirit King may be Yuhabak. He brought the captains of Jingling Court to Hueco Mundo, of course, to re-strengthen the seal or start a war with Hueco Mundo. The 2 sides are likely to be in a confrontation at this time. This can also explain why the King of Emptiness clearly discovered the existence of ninjas, but never did it himself. Because at this time, his main enemy is obviously the Spirit King and the captains of Jingling Court. In the same way, the Shinigami in Jingling obviously knew about the existence of ninjas, so at this time, the Lingwangji SWAT dispatched 2 captains to pick up the ninjas who entered Hueco Mundo. Sure enough, the Gote 13th team and Jingling may not be forces that cannot communicate with each other. They took 3rd Raikage's body before, maybe that's the reason for the bend. Namikaze Minato pondered in his heart, but at the same time he was the one who reacted the fastest. Everyone, go back. Advertisement. With the death of Mizukaji Yagura, the situation that the ninjas had been struggling to support had obviously reached its limit. So at this time Namikaze Minato also decisively ordered the remaining ninjas to act according to the words of the captain of the Gote 13. All rock shinobi, go back to the 2 of them first. All sand shinobi, do the same. At the same time, Oyegi and Luosha also made almost the same choice. Only Raikage, who already had a feud with Team Guardian 13, began to struggle. But soon, he gave the same order. Listen to the Hokage boy, Cloud Shinobi is still alive, go to that guy immediately. Obviously, he had been rescued by the 347 captains of the 13th Guardian team, and he also had a vague understanding of something in his heart at this time. And as the 4 cages made their judgments at the same time, the ninjas also quickly went to ask the 2 captains of Gote 13. But at the same time, roar. At this time, the ancestor Ymir let out a roar as if feeling something, and then she really set off in battle for the first time. Boom. The figure that covered the sky stood up impressively. She raised her fist and punched towards the place where the ninjas gathered. It's over. After seeing Ymir's actions like this, the ninjas who had previously witnessed the unstoppable and terrifying power of the other party couldn't help but raise these 2 words in their hearts. But, I have the edict of His Majesty the Spirit King in my body. Even if you are the ancestor of the Hueco Mundo, giant Ymir, you can't leave us. The ninjas heard the confident words of the silver-haired captain, and then they saw the captain raised his hand and took out a token. The token looks like an ordinary wooden token, it seems to be ordinary. But it was at the same time when this token was taken out that all the ninjas felt that their surroundings had been signed for a while. But after a while, they found that the situation around them had changed dramatically. The desert of Hueco Mundo, the stars in the sky, the endless army of giants, and the shadowy ancestor Ymir were all gone. Instead, they are most familiar with the moon, the sky and the surrounding trees. We come alive. This bizarre thought flickered in Reikage's mind just for a moment. Chapter 113 Yi Shilang said, Hueco Mundo. 1/4. Please subscribe. We're here to live. Including the four shadows, all the ninjas had similar thoughts at this time. 1 second they were still in front of the endless stream of giants in Hueco Mundo, feeling the desperation of imminent death, and the next second they found that they had successfully escaped from that place like a nightmare. All this naturally makes them feel like a dream. If it weren't for the wounds on their bodies and the nearly exhausted Chirella, they would almost suspect that everything was a genjutsu. Among them, Namikaze Minato's feeling is the most complicated. This fourth Hokage has a very strong sense of sight at this time because in the previous battle of Nation Spider Mountain, the way he escaped was almost the same as this time. It's just that the previous time, what Kyojuro used was the treasure given by the master of the ghost-killing team. And this time, the silver-haired captain of the 13th Guardianship team used the edict of the Spirit King. This kind of situation where he was so powerless that he could only escape with the help of others, also made Namikaze Minato feel aggrieved in his heart. But relatively speaking, his teacher Jiraiya obviously does not have as many ideas as him. Konoha Jiraiya, thank you too for your rescue. Although this Konoha Sanin seems a little unreliable from the face, but in fact, after all, he is concerned with the entire ninja world, so he was the first to come to the two captains at this time. The two of you should be the captains of the 13th team of the Jingling Guardian Garden, right? Jiraiya looked at the two of them, and her words were as gentle as possible. 2nd Division Captain, Broken B. The short-haired girl captain spoke indifferently. The captain of the 10th Division, Riffin killed Yi Shilang. On the other hand, Yishiro's words were slightly warmer. You guys from Gote 13, what did you save us from, Hueco Mundo, 4? After hearing the affirmative reply from the two of them, Lei Jing, who had long been unspeakable in his heart, also shouted directly. Have you ever misunderstood? At this time, the girl named Broken B gave Reikage a warning. Saving you has nothing to do with your so-called shadow status. We save you, it's just an order from His Majesty the Spirit King. 99. Advertisement. Besides, you're fighting the Hueco Mundo guys anyway, albeit recklessly and with a really ugly record. 19. As soon as these words came out, the expressions of the four shadow ninjas were instantly stiff. What is reckless action? What is an ugly record? Can this woman speak? But the most important thing is that they couldn't think of any way to refute at this time. After all, in fact, they can indeed be counted in the column of pig teammates stably. Hastily entered the space rift and was swallowed in Hueco Mundo, killed some ordinary unsullied giants that could be mass-produced from beginning to end, and had almost no achievements in the record. The two captains of the 13th team of the Guardian had to come to save the people. So at this time, even the grumpy movie is eaten for a long time without a word. After all, the other party saved his life a few seconds ago, even Reikage knew that it was inappropriate to do it at such a time. At this time, Namikaze Minato, who was already accustomed to the way these forces speak, reacted the fastest. Quote. This action is indeed inappropriate for us. He nodded directly, without refuting the other party's words. Then, he straight to the point asked the most crucial question. However, we still hope that you will inform us, what is the situation now? His question was obviously very broad, but it was the only question Namikaze Minato could ask rhyme. Because if he wants to ask more detailed questions, then he wants to ask too much. For example, why does the space rift in Hueco Mundo rhyme with the current soup country? For example, what are those giants and that giant named Ymir? For example, what is the current situation of Hueco Mundo? For example, will the endless giant army hook the ninja world now? And these questions together can only let Namikaze Minato ask such a broad question. But fortunately, Yi Shilang obviously has a good temper, and after hearing his words at this time, he can understand what he means. If you are sure you want to know, I can tell you something within my terms of reference. His words rhyme, and the broken bee on the side also gave him a helpless look. So at this time, everyone naturally came to see the hook. Advertisement. This silver-haired captain who looked young seemed to be the one who was more talkative in the Gote 13 team. Please speak clearly. So Onoki also clasped his fists at Gishiro and said. And Yoshiro also nodded, and immediately released Shikai. Hueco Mundo is an exotic space located in a space rift. Within Hueco Mundo are monsters that feed on souls, a race of phantoms. The essence of emptiness is the product of evil spirits being twisted and divided into ordinary emptiness and Manos Grande according to their strength. Among them, Manos Grande is further divided into 3 grades, Killian, Ajukas, and Vasto Lord. Over a long period of time, the 10 strongest Manos Grande, called Espada, were born under the command of the Void King. When Yi Shi spoke up, all of you Shadow Heart Chunin couldn't stop crying. These shadows are calculating the interests of the ninja village and the country every day, and they can't wait to hide 10 sentences when they say a word. Where have they seen people like Yi Shilang who talk so much? To put it bluntly, what Yeshiro said now is almost all the key content. Whether it is the name of the Void King, Aizen, or the nature of the Void Clan and their division of strength, they are all dry goods. In particular, this incident left a deep impression on them, and made them worry more about Hueco Mundo than any previous mysterious force. Therefore, at this time, all of you Ying also listened to the content of Yi Shilang's words very seriously like elementary school students, for fear of missing the slightest bit. Yeshiro continued to speak, but the words became a little heavy when he said this. Okay, Zhao, before 10,000 years, His Majesty the Spirit King personally sealed the monsters of Hueco Mundo. 93. But not long ago, the seal suddenly showed signs of loosening. It seems that the guy in the virtual circle wants to break through the seal of His Majesty the Spirit King. When Ganshilang said this, Luo Sha couldn't help but ask, are those guys like giants what you call vain? They are not false. Yi Shilang shook his head and said, these giants are war races created by the King of Void when Hueco Mundo fought against our Jingling court before 10,000 years. This race includes the first and strongest giant ancestor, Ancestor Ymir, as well as the 9 special giants under her command, as well as an infinite number of ordinary unsullied giants. These monsters originally fell into a deep sleep because the Void race was sealed by His Majesty the Spirit King before 10,000 years. But now the Ancestor Ymir has made a profit, which undoubtedly means the seal may be broken soon. Chapter 114 I invite you to be a guest at Jingling. 2 quarters, please subscribe. In Yi Shilang's words, the amount of information is simply appalling. At least the 4 shadows could hear 2 key points just from his words. First, the endless army of giants they had seen before seemed to be part of the Hueco Mundo force. Because if the information is correct, in addition to these giants, there are at least Espada and the virtual family in the virtual circle. And the real main force of these, Hueco Mundo, they have not even seen. Second, the power of Jingling is also far beyond their imagination. According to Yi Shilang, Hueco Mundo fought with Jingling with so many giants in the past, but in the end it was defeated by Jingling and sealed. But it was when the ninjas had so many thoughts in their hearts that Yeshiro's words continued. After His Majesty the Spirit King felt the loosening of the seal, he led a part of our Jingling court's elite expedition, Hueco Mundo. However, just after we started to confront the Shuji clan, His Majesty the Spirit King sensed your existence, so he sent the 2 of us to rescue you. When Shiro said this, the general context of the whole incident seemed to be clear. Except for Namikaze Minato, who had already guessed, secretly said in his heart, the remaining 3 shadows just suddenly realized at this time. He 347 until now, we continue to understand why the Void King didn't kill them personally, and what else did they not see the Hueco Mundo, real master, the Void Clan. 0. The other party is not in the hometown of Hueco Mundo at all, but is facing the army of Jingling on the front line. But at the same time as hearing this, Namikaze Minato also suddenly asked, dare to ask Your Excellency Yeshiro, doesn't Jingling know about Hueco Mundo and the ghost family? A clan of ghosts. After hearing Namikaze Minato's words, Yeshiro was startled. And the broken bee, who had never spoken by his side, was also stunned at this time. After seeing the reaction of the 2, Namikaze Minato already understood in his heart the truth. In his opinion, now only 2 forces know what Hueco Mundo and the ghosts are doing. The first force is undoubtedly the ninja world represented by their 5 major ninja villages. Advertisement. The second force was the ghost-killing team that also participated in the Nation Spider Mountain battle. Except for this faction, all other forces should be ignorant of the Ghost Clan and Hueco Mundo at this time. According to the general view AGCG of the current Ninja Association's discussion of Rhyme, the ghost-killing team, the Gote 13th team and the world government should be in a neutral, or even hostile, relationship with each other, is definitely not a friendly army that can exchange information with each other. In other words, the Gote 13 team probably didn't know about the Oni clan and Hueco Mundo until now. You 2 don't know, it's like this. Namikaze Minato, who finally had first-hand information in a dialogue with a force like Jingling for the first time, was full of pride at this time, and even felt a little tough when he spoke. And when he told Yeshiro and Shibi about what happened in Nation Spider Mountain and the Black Death he encountered in Hueco Mundo not long ago, the expressions of the 2 became extremely solemn. The Ghost Family and Hueco Mundo. If this is the case, it is no wonder that the seal of His Majesty the Spirit King will loosen. 12. While murmuring in a low voice, Yeshiro also looked at Namikaze Minato with a stern face. This news is very important to us, we must immediately send the news back to Jingling. 33. After the words fell, the 2 of them seemed to plan to leave immediately. But at this time, it was naturally impossible for the 4 shadows to let them go just like that. They can also see the meaning and attitude of the Gote 13 team very clearly. This ancient force is obviously not as evil as they thought, but is simply arrogant and disdain to communicate with them. This can also be seen from the attitude of Broken Bee and Byakuya Kuchiki before. Even now, the other party's attitude has not changed. After learning about the situation of the Oni family and Hueco Mundo, the two of them have no plans to work with Shinobi. Instead, it is obvious that he only intends to report back to the Spirit King, and then Jingling will solve it by himself. But the key is, how can the four shadows stand this? They can understand each other's arrogance. After all, the 5 great ninja villages have a natural sense of superiority over other small ninja villages, which is inevitable due to their powerful strength and ancient history. But understanding is understanding, they absolutely cannot pretend that this has not happened. Now that they know what a terrifying force is lurking within Hueco Mundo, they have to see for themselves that the problem is solved. Advertisement. Otherwise, when they think that the giant army in the Hueco Mundo will inquire about the current ninja world at some point, they feel that they may not even be able to sleep well. Wait a minute. At this time, Fourth Reikage was also the first to stop the two who were about to leave. So the remaining 3 shadow hearts couldn't help but admire. As expected of Reikage, the style of action is decisive. 39. Where did you guys get my dad's body? When Meng Shilang said this, the broken bee beside him suddenly said coldly, Meng Shilang, they are just ninjas in the ninja world. However, the next moment, Yishiro's words immediately interrupted his movements, and made several other shadows stunned at the same time. HMPH, do whatever you want, but I won't speak for you if you're being punished later. But before many ninjas could get angry, they heard Yishiro's rebuttal. Thank you for reading this story at fictionzone.net. Your support enables us to keep the site running. Gaishiro nodded, and then looked at the 4 shadows present. But they have important news, and they are also fighting Hueco Mundo. Of course. However, after hearing Reikage's question at this time, Yishilang shook his head. That's a task planned by the captain and His Majesty the Spirit King. I have no right to inform you about it. If you are willing, I can invite you as a captain to visit Jingling Court. Although His Majesty King Ling is not in Jingling Court now, but the captain, the old man, should be willing to explain everything to you. Quote. Although I don't have the authority to tell you the reasons for the matter, the information you provided this time is indeed very important. Her words were full of arrogance, and she was obviously unwilling to let Yishilang continue to speak. And Reikage became even more angry after hearing this, and even couldn't help but want to do it. But soon, after hearing Reikage's question about rhyme, they immediately took back the admiration in their hearts. Obviously, Reikage didn't think about them so much at all. So, I can make an exception for you all. You. After hearing Yishilang's words, Xiaofeng said in a cold voice. Yishiro said so. Chapter 115 Giant Flesh and Blood, The World of Forbearance Shakes. 3/4, please subscribe. One of the 2 captains sang the white face and the other sang the red face, and the dialogue also made many ninjas feel a little moved by Gaishiro. Even the 4 shadows were somewhat emotional at this time. From their point of view, Jingling is obviously a force that hides in the dark and is unwilling to make contact with the outside world. But even in this case, Shishi Lang insisted on using his privilege as the captain to invite the shadows to Jingling Court as guests. And from the words of Broken Bee, it is obvious that his actions will be blamed. And even though they don't know who they are referring to as the captain, the old man, the ninjas can probably guess from the title alone that this captain is in all likelihood the supreme commander of the 13th team of the Guardian. Handsome, powerful, cold-hearted, and insisting on justice, this image undoubtedly made Yishiro the most reliable captain of the Gotei 13 teams who had been hooked so far in the minds of several shadows. So at this time, even Reikage, who was still angry in his heart, would no longer be cold-faced to Zishilang, and Onogi looked at Yishiro very solemnly at this time. Thank you, Your Excellency Yishiro. Well, then this is for you. Yoshiro nodded, and then raised his hand and handed a strange amulet to Onogi. I will return to Jingling Court immediately and inform the captain of the first master about this incident. When you want to come to Jingling Court, put your life energy, that is, what you call chara, into this spirit guide. When the time comes, I will naturally come to escort you to Jingling Court. However, it is best not to delay too long. After hearing his words, Sighing also nodded. They also know that with the current situation of Hueco Mundo, it is estimated that Jingling is also very busy. So even if Yishilang didn't say much, it was absolutely impossible for them to drag on for too long. Within a week at most, after we have dealt with the follow-up of this matter, we will come to visit. Okay. After hearing Namikaze Minato's words, Gishiro also nodded. Afterwards, behind him and the Broken Bee, a space passage that the 4 shadows were already very familiar with immediately appeared. After a while, the figures of the 2 of them disappeared. After the 2 captains of the Gotei 13 team left, the 4 shadows also looked at each other with serious expressions. There is no doubt that the plot development of their operation this time can really be said to be bizarre. Whether it is from the bloody battle between Hueco Mundo and the giants or the follow-up invitation from Jingling, the development of everything all exceeded their original estimates. Advertisement. And they also understand very well that Yishilang invites them to Jingling Palace this time. It is likely to be a major event related to the entire ninja world. Let's go back to the Iron Country first. Mizukage must be informed as soon as possible, as well as personnel and basic strategies for going to Jingling Palace. We all need to discuss it. Onogi said softly, and the remaining 3 shadows also nodded at this time. Quote. Orochimaru, is this the first time? At this time, Jiraiya, who was watching this scene from a distance, had a rather strange expression. What? Orochimaru, who was beside Jiraiya, spoke with a blank face. This is the first time that the shadows of the 5 great ninja villages are so Ishin, isn't it? Jiraiya sighed. So, as someone who has experienced the Second Ninja World War and the Third Ninja World War, this is the first time he has really seen the 4 shadows so unified, the Gongshanguo is. I see that kind of monster-like military net, it's impossible to not it, right? Orochimaru chuckled. Even in the face of heavy rain, ants will build their nests to protect themselves. Fear of death is the instinct of living creatures. Speaking like this, Orochimaru's words seemed to contain a hint of warning. You guy, can't you say something sunny? After hearing Orochimaru's words, Jiraiya also laughed and cursed. Obviously because you were worried about the village, Jaihui took the initiative to ask to come here. 93. This time, he and Orochimaru asked to participate in the exploration of the space rift, so they came here after the meeting. Quote. Maybe. After hearing Jiraiya's words, Orochimaru nodded noncommittally. But if you look closely, you will find that inside Orochimaru's cuff, a dark red snake is slowly wriggling towards the inside of the sleeve with a piece of flesh in its mouth. And that piece of flesh and blood flowing with dark black blood is within the virtual circle, those giant flesh and blood with the physique of the ghost family. Being calm in the face of absolute power, and hugging in the face of the fear of death, this has always been the case in the ninja world, isn't it? Orochimaru said so softly, and Jiraiya apparently didn't notice the abnormality in Orochimaru's cuff. On the contrary, Jiraiya actually listened to what Orochimaru said. Advertisement. 0. For flowers. Because Orochimaru's remarks reminded him of the 3 disciples he once accepted in the Land of Rain in the past. Just when he had just accepted these 3 disciples, what they said had a similar meaning to what Orochimaru said. Jirai, Yi-sensei, only strength can make peace last forever. As long as I have absolute power, no one in the ninja world will dare to fight, right? At that time, the words of the young disciple with the eyes of reincarnation shook Jiraiya's heart and decided to accept him as a disciple to change his thinking. Nagato, Yahiko, Konan. And naturally, this news caused a great shock in the entire ninja world. And it is in such a big environment that another thing in the news becomes more critical. This is the first shadow sacrifice since Third Reikage. Thinking of the names of the 3 disciples, Jiraiya also sighed deeply. Thank you for reading this story at fictionzone.net. Your support enables us to keep the site running. So naturally, most of the ninja villages invested more resources in the Ninja World Association almost at the same time. But the 3 of his disciples who he had high hopes for and thought they would be the sons of prophecy have disappeared. The first one is news about the giant army in Hueco Mundo. There is no doubt that the giant army that is enough to flatten the entire ninja world is clearly displayed in front of other small and large ninja villages in the ninja world in the words of the 4 shadows and the remaining elites of the 5 major ninja villages. But after half a day, as the ninjas who went to explore the space rift returned to the headquarters of the Ninja Federation Association in the Iron Country, a shocking news also spread throughout the major ninja villages. That is, not long ago, he even went to the Land of Rain after hearing about the changes in the Land of Rain. The content of the news is extremely important, and the most critical of them are undoubtedly 2. The changes in the ninja world during this time. I hope you are all safe. Especially with the death of 4th Mizukage Yagura in this battle, this news adds a touch of coldness. Representatives of the Ninja World Alliance formed by the Ninja World Ninja Village will be invited to visit Jingling Court in 5 days. And more importantly, Yagura himself is Jinchuriki, and his death also represents the loss of a tailed beast in the village of Kirin. They are also very clear that in the current situation, the ninja world must be more closely detoured. Chapter 116 I'm going to Jingling Court in person. Sage of 6 Paths reappears. 4 quarters, please subscribe. At a time when ninja villages of all sizes are undergoing various changes due to the encounter of the Ninja World Association's trip to the virtual circle. In the meeting room of the high-level Kirin, the atmosphere was not so sad because of Yagura's death. In fact, at this time, there was no real senior Miss Shinobi in this top-secret conference room. On the contrary, sitting in the conference room at this time were several core members of the Shao organization wearing red clouds on a black background. It is worth mentioning that in addition to the 4 familiar faces Yahiko, Konan, and Nagato, there was also a man with a mask sitting in the conference room at this time. Absolutely, are you sure you can't find it? At this moment, Yahiko's brows were furrowed tightly. His gaze turned to Ju who was in front of him. Zara of 3 Tails, really didn't meet the ninja world again. 33. Yep, Ju responded in a low voice, but his mood was obviously not very good at this time. Not long ago, in the battle of Hueco Mundo, they controlled Yagura to try to attack the ancestor Ymir. However, the ending after the most, 347, is very direct. Yagura was directly killed by the first ancestor Ymir with a punch. Originally, up to this point, it was acceptable to members of Akatsuki's organization. After all, it was a pity to lose Yagura, the Mizukage, as a puppet, but they still had the master control of Mizuken. At this time, almost all the high-level members of Mizukan village were controlled by Nagato, and it was only a matter of time before they supported a new Mizukage puppet. But the problem finally appeared, that is Three Tails Isozuke. Originally, according to their estimates, after Yagura died, Sheralaw should return to the ninja world, and then be reborn somewhere in the ninja world after a period of time. As a creation of Kagaya, Ju's mission is to collect 9-tailed beasts to resurrect Kagaya, so he naturally has a means to easily find the location of the tailed beast. But the key is that after he used the means of searching, he found that Chara of Three Tails Isofu did not return to the ninja world. Yagura isn't dead, Yahiko asked softly. No, Yagura is dead. But Nagato shook his head at this time. It's not Yagura's problem. His words fell, so everyone was silent. It's not Yagura's problem, so it's self-evident what the problem is. You mean, Charla from Three Tails. Should be still, Hueco Mundo, now. Thinking of this possibility, Yan's brows furrowed even tighter. It's possible that, Hueco Mundo, itself is so special that Three Tails Chara couldn't get away from it. 93. Advertisement. Another possibility is that the Void King shot and intercepted Zerera of Three Tails. After all, judging from the situation of One Tail, these ancient forces may have special technologies that can isolate the perception of the tailed beast Chara. Nagato said so, but there is no doubt that no matter what kind of possibility is, it is unacceptable for them. Their ninja peace plan, the initial key condition is resurrection 10 tails. This is the most critical point for both Ju and Nagato et al. But what about now? One Tail fell into the hands of the world government a long time ago, and it definitely did not perceive the position of the other party. And now, Three Tails Isofuka is inexplicably lost in Hueco Mundo. Their tailed beast looting plan has not even begun, and the tailed beast to be robbed has already disappeared. Correspondingly, the pressure they face is increasing with the understanding of those hidden forces. World government, 4 emperors, Jingling Ting, Ghost Killing Squad, Ghost Clan, and the Hueco Mundo, who suddenly appeared recently. Every force made them feel deeply jealous, and every force made them doubt whether their plan could succeed. This event is an opportunity. But at this time, he must speak softly. There must be news about Hueco Mundo and world government in Jingling Court. If it goes well, we should be able to obtain the location of this hidden force, and then find a way to retake One Tail and Three Tails. His idea is obviously very simple. That is, when the representatives of the Ninja World Association were invited to Jingling Court, they also sent Mist Ninja to enter it. No, I have a better way. But at this time, Nagato resolutely denied the words. Just getting information from world government and Hueco Mundo is not enough. His words were diligent, and he definitely instantly understood what Nagato wanted to do. Nagato, you haven't fully absorbed the power of Senra's fruit, don't be impulsive. So it was almost subconsciously trying to stop Nagato. But his words stopped halfway through. Because at this moment, behind Nagato, a pitch-black sphere slowly condensed and flew up. And if Yi Lin was here, he would definitely be able to recognize this pitch-black sphere at a glance, which is the key item that symbolizes the Six Paths level, the truth-seeking ball. No, I have completely melted the power of Senra's fruit. Nagato's words were full of confidence. Advertisement. And his reincarnation eyes, at this time, slowly looked at the man sitting in the farthest with a mask on his face. So this time, we go to Jingling Court in person. At the same time, Yi Lin naturally wouldn't know what happened on Wu Ninja's side. And if he knew, then he would definitely sigh that Nagato and others' guesses this time were actually wrong. Because in fact, the Three Tails Isozuke was not in his hands. Of course, Yi Lin did intend to get the 3 tails that were given away for free, although it was useless for him to hold it, it couldn't be cheap after all, wasn't it? But here is the key. Just when Ymir Boxing killed Yagura, Yi Lindu was about to use the traditional method to collect 3 tails. The chakra of 3 tails was pulled by a huge force from nothingness at the moment of Yagura's death, and then disappeared directly into the puppet realm of the Path of the First Ancestor. Interesting. In the secret room of Kusanagi village, Yi Lin muttered with a subtle expression. There is no need to guess at all, Yi Lin can almost determine the identity of the fisherman. The only one who can have such a deep entanglement with 3 tails and have the ability to directly take them away can only be the Sage of 6 Paths. Yi Lin was not surprised that the other party had this ability. Because the puppet realm can be said to fool a lot of people when he uses it, but in fact the puppet realm is just an independent different space. Although this alien space itself is created by the system and cannot be destroyed, with the power of Sage of 6 Paths, it is still not difficult to take away Chara of 3 tails with the help of the connection with 3 tails. And Yi Lin himself didn't care about a mere 3 tails Chirella, he was just curious about what the Sage of 6 Paths shot itself represented. It seems that he should have completely noticed me. No, should he have noticed Ymir? So Yi Lin couldn't help but think of the previous speculation on the moon. Sage of 6 Paths might have a feeling for the power above SS level 2.6. And the change of Sage of 6 Paths again obviously confirmed Yi Lin's guess to some extent. Last time, he sensed the presence of Kaido, so he awakened the remnant of Otsutsugi Hamura. And this time, he obviously sensed Ymir's existence, so Jaihui took Chara of 3 tails away again. 2 times in a row with a puppet above SS rank, he should also be vaguely aware of the changes in the ninja world, right? He whispered to himself, but Yi Lin was no longer as fearful and panicked as he used to be. The reason is also very simple, because even if Sage of Six Paths is really willing to use the chakra he left behind, Yi Lin has enough cards to deal with the opponent. And soon, Yi Lin temporarily put the Sage of Six Paths thing aside. Because now he has more important things to do. The guests from several major shinobi villages are coming to Jingling. I have to prepare well to continue my journey. Chapter 117 Golden Giant Gate, Welcome to Jingling Ting. New book for collection. In the midst of the hectic process of dealing with the various follow-ups to the events of Hueco Mundo, 5 days have apparently passed in a very short time. In the past few days, the shadow capitals of several major ninja villages have not returned to their own ninja villages for the first time, but have temporarily lived in the headquarters of the Ninja World Association in the country of Iron. During this period of time, they had held dozens of meetings, large and small, in response to the various situations that might arise from this visit to Jingling, which also shows how much they attach importance to this trip. However, they couldn't help but take it seriously. After all, since the first appearance of the Gote 13 team, this was the first time they had received an official invitation from the other party in the true sense. Before that, even if the Ghost Slayer team had had an affair with Konoha, it was only a small question led by Yenju Purgatory Kyojuro and 2 members of the Ghost Slayer team. This kind of official visit, which is like visiting the other party's capital directly, is the first time in the Ninja 06 world. Therefore, the ninja world is naturally trying its best to make the greatest degree of courtesy. I said, would it be a bit too much? At this time, Namikaze Minato was a little speechless, looking at the large number of entourages below the headquarters of the Ninja Federation Association, and the Konoha iron medal specially made to show the characteristics of the ninja world. It's not too much. After all, that Byakuya Kuchiki looks like an ancient noble. For this kind of guy, the necessary etiquette is the first step to communicate with them. And beside Namikaze Minato, stood Sarutobi Hiizaki and Jiraiya. That guy Orochimaru is really such an important thing to say that there is a key research. At this time, by Jiraiya's side, his good friend Orochimaru has disappeared. However, Jiraiya said it all, but he actually knew that since this visit was actively invited by the other party, the possibility of a fight was really low. So the police said it was Orochimaru, and even Jiraiya himself probably wouldn't have gone to Jingling if it wasn't for his curiosity about Jingling. In addition to Sarutobi Hiizaki, Namikaze Minato and Jiraiya, the 3 iconic figures of Konoha. Among the ninjas who followed, Kakashi and Rin, the disciples of Namikaze Minato, were also impressively listed. Advertisement. However, after this period of precipitation and growth, the shoe childishness before the 2 of them has obviously faded away, and replaced by the ninja's unique ability. And they are also standing in the team at this time, and their hearts are eager to go to Jingling Court. There must be information about the 7 warlords of the sea in the Jingling Court, and it is likely to get news about Obito. They witnessed Obito being kidnapped in the past, and the identity of the dark man who kidnapped Obito is still a mystery. But in their opinion, there is a high probability that the Dark Man is a member of the mysterious force in the village outside Shinobi, just like Jingling. So this time, after hearing that there was a chance to go to Jingling Court, they also directly found Namikaze Minato, the teacher and Hokage, and became one of the guard ninjas who went to Jingling Court this time. It is worth mentioning that, except for Konoha here, the rest of the big ninja villages are not too small. Whether it is Cloud Shinobi, Rock Shinobi, or even Sand Shinobi, who is very poor in national strength, this time, they deliberately made a considerable ostentation, in order not to show their timidity in this first exchange. But the only thing worth mentioning is the Kirin. Since the 4th Mizukage Yagura was killed in Hueco Mundo, this time, Mizukage was naturally unable to choose a new Mizukage in a short period of time. So at this time, instead of Mizukage, it was a group of Anbu ninjas from Kirin and a Mizukage candidate. Is it Terumi Mei? Looking at the beauty with a very iconic figure in the distance, the leader of Kirin village in the distance, Namikaze Minato's eyes flashed for a moment. Naturally, he has also heard about this mist ninja Tenji ninja. It has 2 bloodline boundaries of Wrong and Boyle style, and its strength can be said to be extremely strong. It is naturally understandable to be a candidate for Mizukage. And behind Terumi Mei, followed by a few masked Mistura village Anbu. But it is worth mentioning that, among the Anbu of the Mist Ninja, Namikaze Minato was the first to notice a tall ninja wearing a snail mask. Advertisement. The other shadows were watching vigilantly beside him, ready to interrupt at any time when Onimu had something unusual. And from the golden door, the figure of Yi Shilang slowly walked out from it, like a proud god overlooking the world below. But at the same time, they are also a little curious about how the other party will bring them to the Jingling Ting. Thank you for reading this story at fictionzone.net. Your support enables us to keep the site running. After hearing Onogi's words, Namikaze Minato also nodded in unison. On the other side of the door, a huge and magnificent city is already standing under the blue sky. And after that beam of light appeared, it also began to widen and change toward both sides. Because as Onogi injected chakra into the talisman, they also saw a golden beam of light appearing in the sky not far away that seemed to directly divide the heaven and the earth. For some reason, he seemed to feel that the other party had a strange sense of incongruity. In Onogi's hand, he was holding the strange amulet called Spirit that Yashiro had given him earlier. Then, Onogi also tried to inject Chara into the amulet according to what Yashiro said earlier. But just a moment later, the light formed a huge golden door that seemed to open directly between heaven and earth. Guests from the ninja world, welcome to Jingling Court. Now that everyone is here, let's get ready to start. At this time, Tsuchikage Onogi also brought the other three to the front of Namikaze Minato and Sarutobi Hiizaki. But just the next moment, their expressions froze instantly. Yep. But after a while, Namikaze Minato shook his head again, thinking that he was thinking too much. Chapter 118 The Ninja's Jingling Ting Ting Journey. 2 quarters, please subscribe. After the huge golden gate opened the door to Jingling Court like this, Si Ying felt that even his breathing was a little uncomfortable for a while. Naturally, they had also thought about how the members of the 13th team of the Guardian would bring them to the Jingling Court. Whether to lead them directly, or to use some kind of large-scale space-time ninjutsu, or simply not allow them to move with so many people and horses. They have even discussed that they can use what happened in the process of going to Jingling Court to explore the background of Jingling Court. But no matter how they thought about it, they never expected that the other party would pick them up in this way. You must know that this is the headquarters of the Ninja World Association. That huge gate made of golden light can appear here. Doesn't it mean that you can inquire anywhere in the ninja world? Nowhere, but everywhere. Is this the essence of Jinglingting? The 4 shadows trembled in their hearts, but then they quickly reacted. No matter how shocked they were in their hearts, they couldn't show it at such a time. Your Excellency Dad Shilang. 4 shadows first stepped forward and greeted greedy Shilang. I have already reported the important information you have provided to the Commander-in-Chief, and now please join me in the Jingling Court. Yi Shilang said softly, and then he didn't say anything else, he turned around and stepped into the golden door. Let's go. After seeing this scene, the 4 shadows also looked at each other, and then made a gesture with the guard ninjas of the various ninja villages behind them. So soon, all the ninjas stepped directly into the golden gate. At the same time as stepping through the door, it was as if he had crossed the entire world, and all the scenery in front of him changed accordingly. Above the sky, the translucent barrier reflects the blue sky, surrounded by beautiful mountains and lakes. Even among the ninjas who are specialized in researching terrain information, it is not enough to say which specific direction they are here at this time. Especially after coming here, all the ninjas really felt that the hugeness of the city in front of them far exceeded their expectations. It is many times bigger than Konoha, and it seems that the whole is divided into 2 parts. In the ninja team, there are naturally a lot of ninjas who are investigating ninjutsu by Grandmaster, so at this time Namikaze Minato has also got some news about the size of Jingling Court. Advertisement. At 2h at carat at plus. Of course, in order not to offend Jingling directly, the perceptive ninjas did not use their full firepower, but only roughly sensed the surrounding situation. So now, Namikaze Minato has probably figured out that the city they are in seems to be clearly divided into 2 parts. The first part is the side where they are moving, the inner city surrounded by tall walls. There are obviously higher mountains and gorgeous buildings in the inner city, and their current location seems to be a common place. You have only entered Seoul Society through the southern gate, and your location is Seoul Street. The front is the Jingling Court. We must enter it through the 4 major Jingling gates, so please don't move around, otherwise you will be caught as a travel disaster and transferred to the Repentance Palace. At this time, Yashiro obviously saw the various doubts and secret commotions in the hearts of the ninjas, so his brows were slightly raised. Seoul Society. Reception door. Wandering Seoul Street. So the ninjas immediately wrote down these key words. Seoul Society should be their name for the area they are in. The reception door should be the huge golden door before. From his point of view, there seems to be more than one reception door here. As for Yuhun Street, it should be a common place in this civilian residential area, but I didn't see the existence of other people, and I don't know if they were evacuated in advance. Their hearts were crazy, but then they didn't take any further action. After entering your hometown just now, no fool will do anything random. So they also followed Yishilang all the way, and then soon came to a gate under the huge high wall. The door looks ancient and solemn, and although the lines on it are not messy, it exudes a long and ancient aura inexplicably. On the door, the words, East, Gate of Qingliu, were written impressively. So the ninjas began to mutter in their hearts again, this should be the Jingling Gate in the east, in other words, there should be a corresponding door in the 4 directions. At this time, I saw a tall and strong man standing under the door, with an extremely complicated spell engraved on his wrist. Captain Yashiro, these are the ninjas of the ninja world. At this time, the strong man who was obviously a doorman was the numerous ninjas behind Ame Kanye Shilang. However, although there is no offensiveness between his words, the high angle of view that comes from his bones still makes the ninjas a little uncomfortable. Advertisement. Ghost Wrist, they are the guests of the Commander-in-Chief. Gaishiro seemed a little unhappy, and said softly at this time. Yes, of course I know. The strong man named Ghost Arm also nodded at this time, and then turned around and gently stretched out his hand towards the closed door. As the countless spells in his hand continued to shine, the huge Jingling Gate also opened in the next moment. With the opening of the Jingling gate, the translucent barrier in the sky seemed to fluctuate a little at this time. After seeing this scene, the ninjas also naturally understood in their hearts that these 4 Jingling gates were obviously bound by some means to the enchantment that enveloped the entire Jingling court. Jinglingting is almost impossible. In contrast, several shadows couldn't help but feel a little uncomfortable in their hearts. Because compared to this kind of high-end defense skills, the ninja village still adopts the most primitive system of guarding the gates, which seems to be a bit unsatisfactory. Among them, Namikaze Minato and Sarutobi Hiizaki, the former and current Hokage duo, have the most complicated mood. Their ninja village had experienced being invaded and Zhang was taken away not long ago. Most of all, they knew that ninja village's defense was nothing like a sieve in front of the strong. Go in. After the door was opened, the gatekeeper named Ghost Arm also stood aside and didn't say much about him. All right, Zhao. Therefore, the shadows also pressed down the complicated emotions in their hearts and continued to move forward with Yi Shilang. After entering Jingling Court, they were almost shocked as if Grandma Lu entered the Grand View Garden. Compared with Yushin Street, the buildings inside Jingling Court are undoubtedly a bit taller. As far as they can see, there are tall buildings with Technology Development Bureau written on them, as well as various ancient and luxurious mansions. In addition, they can see Shinigami wearing the uniforms of the 13th team of the Guardian Garden patrolling everywhere, and the closer they get to the center of Jingling Palace, the more frequent the patrols. And soon, they came to a huge building. This is the headquarters of the 13th team of the Guardian, which is the core of the royal palace of the Guardian Spirit. After coming here, even Yishiro's words seemed to carry a hint of adoration and seriousness. The captain and the other captains are waiting for you inside. Chapter 119 10 Captains. The gully to be eliminated. 3 quarters, please subscribe. The chief captain and the other captains are waiting for you inside. When Yi Shilang's words came to this point, he immediately turned around again, but not everyone can enter here. Apart from each of you, you can choose 1 or 2 people, the other guests of the ninja world, please stay where you are. He looked at the guarding ninjas behind the 4 shadows, and his meaning was very clear. Yep, and the 4 shadows obviously guessed the current situation in countless previous meetings. After all, the talks between the ninja world and Jingling must be the talks of the bosses in the end. As for the guard ninjas, to a greater extent, it is actually just a soft deterrence to show their own strength. So it didn't take much time, and the shadows who had already made arrangements made most of the guard ninjas stand by in place. And ninjutsu really wanted to participate in the talks, but there were only about 20 people in total. 4 shadows and their cronies, plus Jiraiya, Sarutobi Hiizaki, Terumi Mei of Kirin, and the 5 leaders of the medium-sized ninja village, followed Yishiro into the headquarters of the Akatsuki 13th team. As soon as they entered the headquarters, everyone's stature was immediately stunned. Because at this time, 9 figures were already standing in front of them. Without exception, they all wore the uniforms of the captain of the 347 team of the Guardian. In addition to Byakuya Kuchiki, the captain of the 6th Division, the captain of the 11th Division, Zaraki Kenpachi, the captain of the 2nd Division, and the captain of the 10th Division, Heben Keisha, who are already very familiar with the ninja world, there are many others, 6 people. At this time, standing in front of these captains is an old man who looks old. He was wearing a white Captain Yori, his eyes were faint, he was holding a cane, and his silver-white beard tied with a purple girdle hung down to his waist. This old man is the captain of the 13th team, the 1st team, Yamamoto Yuanyujai Shigekuni. At this moment, the old man spoke softly, his voice loud and thunderous. The guests have come from afar, please take a seat. And his words undoubtedly caught the attention of the 4 shadows in an instant. He's the captain of the Gote 13. Yamamoto Motoyazai Shigekuni. So at this time, the eyes of the 4 shadows were all focused on the old man standing in front of all the captains. Advertisement. Although the other party looked so old, the 4 shadows still did not dare to despise the other party. After all, the other party was the one who commanded the 13th team of the Guardian Protector. Those who were able to command these monsters, even if they were old, could not be easily ignored. However, the guests follow the host. Since the shadows and their cronies came with good intentions, at this time, they naturally took their seats according to what the other party said. And Yamamoto Yuanyujai Shigekuni is obviously a straightforward person, and his words are straight to the point. You and the captains of the 13th team of the Guardian have already known each other, but I will introduce a little. As he spoke, he also raised his finger and pointed to the 2 captains beside him. This is Kyoraku Shunsui, captain of the 8th Division. 99. The one on the left is dressed in a distinctive pink haori, often wearing a minka on his head, and a slight beard on his chin. This is Jashiro Yukitaki, the captain of the 13th Division. Then, he pointed to the only woman among the captains, a man with a strange mask, and a tall man with an iron hood. The 4th Division Captain, Yunohana Retsu. Captain of the 12th Division, nearly. 7th Division Captain, Paimura Sajin. 33. Having said that, Yamamoto Yuanyujai Shigekuni did not continue to say anything more. But the expressions of everyone in the ninja world below were a little weird at this time. While concentrating on the appearance of these new captains, they were also slightly puzzled. Because although it is clearly the 13th team of Gote, there are only 10 captains introduced by Yamamoto Motonuzai Shigekuni. As for the remaining 3 captains, he didn't seem to have any intention to explain. Could it be that the 3 captains went on the expedition with the Spirit King? But obviously, several shadows are not easy to ask about this kind of thing, so at this time they can only guess secretly in their hearts. But at the same time, Yamamoto Yuanujai Shigekuni suddenly stretched out his hand, AGCG, to give a slight gesture. Soon, everyone saw a corpse covered in white cloth being carried into the room by a member of the 13th team of the Guardian. And when the player lifted the white cloth, the expressions of all the people present changed instantly. Among them, the expressions of Tsuchikage Onogi and Reikage changed the most. Advertisement. Because the corpse that was carried into the room at this time was actually the corpse of the 3rd Reikage who had been taken away a long time ago. I have heard the news that you brought back through Captain Yashiro, and I have also informed His Majesty the Spirit King who is far away in Hueco Mundo. At this time, Yamamoto Yuanujai Shigekuni spoke again. Your Excellency Reikage, our Guardian 13th team never used your father's body indiscriminately, but in order to strengthen the seal of Hueco Mundo, we had to capture the body of a strong man in the ninja world. But now the Ghost Clan and Hueco Mundo have contacted, and our original plan can't continue. So please take your father's body back. 5. At the same time as his words were hooked, Reikage was naturally stunned. One of the reasons why he came here is of course to want his father's body, but the key is that he didn't expect it to be in this way. Before he said anything, the other party took the initiative to return the body, which was a little too smooth. But compared to Reikage, other high-level ninjas are more concerned about the amazing information of Yamamoto Yuanujai Shigekuni. The reason why the Gote 13th team robbed the bodies of the strong in the ninja world was not due to some kind of ambition, but to strengthen the seal of Hueco Mundo. At the same time as learning this information, the visions of the insightful people in the major ninja villages also lit up instantly. They also knew that there was an insurmountable trust gap between Ninja World and Jingling. And the formation of this ravine was because of the actions of the captains of the 13th team of Jingling Gote. Snatching the corpse of the strong. This is not a serious thing no matter how you look at it, and it can be regarded as an enemy for the ninja world. This is also the reason why the people of Jingling have already rescued a few shadows, but they still brought many guard ninjas to softly deter them. But now Yamamoto Genryuzai Shigekuni has revealed the information of Yun, and the behavior of returning 3rd Reikage's body is undoubtedly a bridge across this ravine. Therefore, at this time, the representatives of the ninja world almost all put down their defenses temporarily, and turned their eyes to Reikage. At this time, it was obvious that Reikage was the most suitable to ask and speak. And although the movie itself is a rough-hearted person, as a shadow, he is naturally not a fool. So at this time, he also immediately said to Yamamoto Yuanujai Shigekuni, "Thank you for returning my father's body. However, I still want to ask, what do you mean by the reinforced seal, Your Excellency Captain?" His words fell, and the Captain Yamamoto Genryuzai Shigekuni also shook his head gently. This matter is a long story. 99. Chapter 120 Jingling Ting. Shao Organization. 4 quarters, please subscribe. It's okay, you can talk as long as you want. After hearing the words of Yamamoto Yuanujai Shigekuni, the high-level people in the ninja world really wanted to say such a sentence at this time. They really wanted the captain to speak freely, and the more he said, the better. After all, the more they talk, the more information they can get out of it. However, before they could speak, Yamamoto Yuanujai Shigekuni spoke on his own and started. The origin of Hueco Mundo must have been explained to you by Captain Yashiro. 33. After hearing what the other party said, everyone nodded too late. Then you should also know that Hueco Mundo was sealed by His Majesty the Spirit King himself. Speaking of this, Yamamoto Yuanujai Shigekuni's expression also flashed a trace of reminiscence. After the rough and bloody battle with Hueco Mundo, His Majesty the King personally committed suicide into Hueco Mundo. Then, he completely closed the Hueco Mundo with the effect of Killer Stone, cutting off the spirits over the Hueco Mundo. Quote. But when Yamamoto Yuanujai Shigekuni's words came to this point, the hearts of the high-level ninjas couldn't help but jump. Because they knew that the Spirit King had existed for a very long time, and his seal, Hueco Mundo, was at least something before 10,000 years. And now Yamamoto Genryuzai Shigekuni's words mean that the captain of the Gote 13 team seems to have existed for at least 10,000 years. Are all the guys in Jingling Court immortal? So the hearts of the people could not help but curse. It's like they are looking for someone to chat and talk about how their father is, but the other person says, "I don't know your father, but I hugged your ancestor when he wore open crotch pants." This is a difference of seniority, and I don't even have the confidence to speak. But no matter what the high-level ninjas think in their hearts, Yamamoto Yuanujai Shigekuni continued to say. However, even the seal set by His Majesty the Spirit King with his own power, the power of the seal has been eroded over the years, and the guys in Hueco Mundo have begun to make money and try to break through the seal. If you want to re-strengthen the seal, you need to inject powerful life energy into the seal. Yamamoto Yuanujai Shigekuni said this in a low voice. But the other guys on the outside have been restless in recent years. As far as we know, the four emperors of the Grand Line have already begun to move. Kaido has gradually migrated his Oni Island from the New World to the waters near the Ninja World, and the forces under Charlotte Linlin of 10,000 Kingdoms have also approached Kaido, and the two sides are suspected of having an affair. 99. The world government has been accumulating power, and recently has gradually extended its hand from the Grand Line, trying to rebuild the world order with their power. So even His Majesty the Spirit King would not dare to expend a lot of energy to re-strengthen the seal. This is also the reason why we went to the outside world to capture the strong body. Although the strength of the strong in the ninja world is a little weak, the chakra you use is the condensation of life energy, which can be used to strengthen the seal. However, with the circle of ghosts and Hueco Mundo, the speed of seal reinforcement has gradually been unable to keep up with the speed of destruction, so we also intend to abandon this plan. Yamamoto Yuanyujai Shigekuni's words were very smooth, and he had finished speaking in 3 or 2. Advertisement. But the content of his words caused an uproar in the hearts of all the high-level ninjas. Because the words of the commander-in-chief contained something that was too exaggerated. In fact, the 4 emperors and the 5 elders are indeed apprehensive, but at the same time they do have an idea. That is, the other party's nest is in the Grand Line after all, and it may not be so destructive to the ninja world for the time being. At the same time, these guys have so far appeared in a single or double way. There is no corpse of the ghost clan, the spider Yamanaka, as circumstantial evidence, nor is it as shocking and terrifying as the giant clan in Hueco Mundo. So until now, although they have also attached importance to the world government and the 4 emperors, they have placed them in the second place. But now from the words of Yamamoto Yuanyujai Shigekuni, they smelled the conspiracy like never before, and a sense of urgency that was so strong that it was almost suffocating rose in their hearts. According to Yamamoto Yuanyujai Shigekuni, the 2 of the 4 emperors seem to have intervened. And among them, the 4 emperors, Kaido, who once killed Hanzo of the Salamander in the Land of Rain, even started to migrate to the ninja world from his old nest. The terrifying meaning symbolized in the middle makes everyone feel cold when they think about it. And Yamamoto's follow-up remarks made them clearly feel how narrow their vision was before. Because it is in the dark, these forces outside the ninja world have begun to constantly sign and balance, and they are jealous of each other. Before that, their ninja world was like a blank piece of paper that didn't know anything. He even said it directly. If Yamamoto Yuanyujai Shigekuni had not informed them of the situation here, then they would have been stunned until the world government really came to the door. However, the shadows are after all the heroes of the major ninja villages in the ninja world. So even though they could not wait to investigate immediately where there was an island called Oni Island, in the surrounding waters, they still forcibly suppressed the thoughts in their hearts. Things have to be resolved one by one. And the first thing they are facing now is not the 4 emperors or the world government, but Hueco Mundo. What are you going to do if the reinforcement seal cannot be done? So at this time, Onogi also took the initiative to ask. Let's say again, one time to listen to the bloody battle of the new year. And Yamamoto Yuanyujai Shigekuni said proudly. In the past, the old man and His Majesty the Spirit King were able to defeat the guys of Hueco Mundo, and they can still do it now. Really? After hearing the commander's words, several shadows also secretly thought in their hearts. Sure enough, although Jingling is not as evil as they imagined, there is no doubt that this pride is real. This kind of pride that has been passed down since ancient times makes them disdain to seek help from others. Even if they already know that Hueco Mundo is about to break the seal, their first thought is just fight again and seal it back again. 0. For flowers. But the point is, this kind of idea is absolutely unacceptable to any leader of the shinobi village in the shinobi world. Because they are very clear, even if Jingling is really strong, this time it is Hueco Mundo and the Ghost Clan asking. What if Jingling loses? Advertisement. Jingling may have a trump card to contend with the endless giants, but the ninja world does not. Once Jingling loses, the ninja world will end up together. So, if Azara can strengthen the seal of Hueco Mundo, our ninja world is willing to do it with you. 93. Sarutobi Hiizaki said this directly to Yamamoto Genyazai Shigekuni. He didn't even have to consider the opinions of other shinobi villages, because he knew that the other shadows present definitely thought so. With their pride and sense of responsibility towards Ninja Village, it is absolutely impossible to gamble their lives on the victory or defeat between Jingling and Zuquan. Asking. The chief captain had obviously not even considered this possibility, and even the other captains beside him slightly raised their eyebrows at this time. Yes, we are. And Sarutobi Hiizaki originally planned to continue to say something, but the words were only halfway through, and he found that Yamamoto Yuanyujai Shigekuni's expression in front of him became obviously a little serious in the next moment. Etc. The commander-in-chief waved his hand gently, and quite rudely stopped his and Sarutobi's words. Someone broke into Jingling Court with the help of space ability, and it was people from your ninja world who led them into Jingling Court. He looked at Sarutobi Hiizaki slightly coldly. What? It's impossible. And after hearing this sentence, the high-level ninja world present were all stunned without exception. Of course they knew that according to their original plan, no matter what plan would come out like this. So for the first time, they doubted whether it was a misunderstanding. The fact is, the old man never lies. Yamamoto Genyazai Shigekuni said lightly, and then he got up with a cane in his hand and walked out of the Gote 13 team headquarters. The several Konoha seniors looked at each other, then got up in unison, and walked out under the suspicious gazes of many captains. As soon as they walked out of the headquarters of the Gote 13 team, they immediately saw the so-called invader. In fact, there is no need for eyesight at all, because the other party did not cover up his existence at all. At this moment, a ninja wearing a snail mask and wearing an Anbu forehead guard was standing on a house in Jingling. At this time, the only right eye of the mask like a snail stick is the Mangekyo, which is intertwined with red and pitch black. Kamui. In front of him, the space slowly pulled noodles. In the self-twisting space, several ninjas wearing red cloud costumes on a black background are also striding hard from it. Chapter 121 Obito reappears. 4 pairs of reincarnation eyes. 14. Please subscribe. There were 4 members of Akatsuki's organization who slowly stepped out of the ramen space, and all wore masks belonging to Anbu Kirin. Looking at these guys who suddenly appeared, the hearts of the 4 shadows sank in an instant. They are not fools, and the conspiracy calculations they have experienced can be said to be countless. So at this time, they also quickly understood that they were being calculated. Someone did sneak into the team carefully selected by the Ninja World, and directly entered the Jingling court with the help of the ninjas as a springboard. Is it the one from Kirito? At this time, everyone subconsciously distanced themselves from Terumi Mei. But they didn't know it, and Terumi Mei was extremely puzzled at this time. She is a Mizukage candidate for Kirin, but she belongs to Kirin's special organization. No, its meaning is like the root of Konoha, and 360 is a shameful organization. So for a long time before, she had not been in Wunin village, but performed tasks outside. Until news of Mizukage Yagura's death came, she circled back to the village and began to sort out the chaos in the village. To put it more directly, she was actually equivalent to a senior official of the frontier, and she didn't have a few days to return to the village. Therefore, the Mist Ninja brought this time was actually selected by the senior consultants of the Mist Ninja, and she, the so-called Mizukage candidate, did not know about it at all. So now, she is naturally extremely suspicious. But at the same time, she also knows what she should do now. If the situation continues like this, then the weak connection between the Shinobi world and Jingling will soon be on the verge of breaking, and the Fog Ninja as very may be directly regarded as traitors by other villages. So, even if he didn't know who these guys who suddenly appeared, Terumi Mei did it without hesitation. You are not the ninjas of Kirin. Who are you? Boil-style Chowu hot knife technique. She made a seal directly in her hand, and when she opened her mouth, she was sprayed with hot and boiling mist. And when the mist was sprayed, it began to gradually condense and form, and then it turned into a high-heat hammer that kept vibrating, and moved towards the Shao organization above, who was wearing a black-bottomed red cloud costume. And the power of this blow can only be guessed from the situation where the surrounding air was almost burned to the point of twisting. There is no doubt that Terumi Mei is indeed a cage-level combat power. 10. Without fighting back, the leader of the Shao organization members raised his eyes slightly. Then, the slashing knife condensed by the high-heat mist was silently annihilated in the next moment. Advertisement. And along with the slashing knives, there are masks on the faces of the members of the Akatsuki organization. Of course, maybe they didn't intend to hide their identities in the first place. At the same time as the mask fell, some people at the scene were also shocked. Because in fact, they know these people who know the organization. Tibetan. For example, Sarutobi Hiizaki looked at Zhao Zhao who was standing at the rear of Shao's organization, and his expression was extremely complicated. He has been investigating the whereabouts of this old friend who defected from the village, but he never thought that he would see him in this way at such a time. In addition to Sarutobi Hiizaki, the most shocked is undoubtedly Jiraiya. Konan, Yahiko, and Jiraiya was even more surprised to find that out of the 3 members of the Akatsuki organization other than Zhang, 2 of them were his disciples in the Land of Rain. So naturally, he is almost certain. Are you, Nagato? Seeing the last member of the Akatsuki organization with double horns on his head and long hair that almost fell to his waist, Jiraiya spoke in disbelief. He could hardly believe that the alien in front of him was actually Nagato, the disciple he once thought was the son of prophecy. There is no gap between Nagato, Yahiko and Konan, teacher Jiraiya. At this time, Nagato looked at Jiraiya indifferently. We are Akatsuki. And as the words fell, Nagato also gently stretched out his hand. To this dark ninja world, bring the man of dawn. 19. As he stretched out his hand, the mist ninja who had been sluggish like a corpse before, who wore a snail mask, also let out a scream. But it was just such a scream that made the faces of the 3 of Konoha change dramatically. The 3 whose faces changed drastically were Kakashi, Rin and Namikaze Minato. Because at this time, they can clearly hear the owner of this voice. Advertisement. Obito. They looked at the ninja who was screaming in disbelief, and at this time the other party's snail mask was also falling off as his body trembled in pain. And sure enough, under that mask, it was Uchiha Obito who had been missing for a long time. It's just that at this time, Obito's whole person has become extremely strange, and the right half of his body is even more strangely white. At this time, as Nagato stretched out his fisherman, there were even countless white cells on his body that were surging like living creatures, which looked extremely eerie and terrifying. What did you do to Obito? FK. 4 pairs of samsara eyes. Shinra Sky 2.6 Levy. 99. Looking at this scene, the police said that they were ninjas, and even Yi Lin, who was observing secretly, was really stunned. A weak and ignorant person who dares to know about Shen Yun's hands. At the same time, Obito, who had been screaming in pain, had already undergone a mutation. The countless twisting cells on the right half of his body actually fell off his body slowly at this time, and then attached to the other 3 members of the Akatsuki organization except Nagato. So the next moment, the huge repulsive force wiped out all Kakashi's attempted attacks in an instant. He felt his body fly uncontrollably towards the rear, and then slam to the ground. Thank you for reading this story at fictionzone.net. Your support enables us to keep the site running. At the same time, everyone also saw that the eyes of the 3 members of the Shao organization gradually turned into purple reincarnation eyes. Rough bird flow. It roared loudly, and then when its right hand stretched out, it directly drew the sword of diligence and forbearance. And seeing his friend's situation like this, even Kakashi, who has always been calm, has red eyes at this time. Compared to when he faced Enel in the past, his strength growth can almost be said to be terrifying, completely worthy of the name of Tianji. There was no change in Nagato's gesture of reaching out, he just glanced at Kakashi lightly. Above the ninja sword, the bright electric light shines infinitely, and Kakashi's figure has rushed to Nagato in an instant. There is no doubt, just with this momentary explosive force and terrifying speed, Kakashi has steadily surpassed elite Jonin's level of police, and can even be said to be approaching Cage level. Chapter 122 Destroy Jingling Court. Announce the rise of Shao. 2 quarters, please subscribe. In fact, it would be impossible to say that Yi Lin did not anticipate the arrival of Shao organization at all. Ever since he saw the traces of the Eye of Reincarnation on Yagura, Yi Lin knew that the Shao organization had a high probability of being established. Moreover, Mist Ninja was probably infiltrated and secretly manipulated by the Akatsuki organization a long time ago, just like the original work. So naturally, he can also guess that the 11 Shao organization will definitely take action against Jingling, which is for sure. But the next development is completely beyond Grape Yelin's estimate. According to Yi Lin's idea, the behavior of Shao's organization should be to conduct investigations quietly and then do some sneak attacks, and the leader of Shao's organization should also be Obito. But what about now? The leader of Akatsuki's organization became the Nagato trio, and the other party actually swelled to the point where they dared to attack Jingling directly. And Yahiko didn't die, and at the same time, he even joined the Akatsuki organization along with Zhang Zhang. As for Obito, it seems to have been transformed into a strange creature. And even these things are not related to him after all, and Yi Lin has long been aware of the fact that he changed the plot. But the point is, what's going on now? No matter how you look at this face of Nagato, it is a replica of the Otsutsugi family. Except the skin is not so white, the whole 06 body looks like a Otsutsugi family. And what is even more exaggerated is the reincarnation eye in the eyes of all the members of the Shao organization at this time. Yi Lin can be sure that Konan and Yahiko are not dead, nor is Zhang. They are not made into 6 paths puppets by Nagato, but have the eyes of reincarnation in the true sense. No, the focus should be on Obito and Ju. But soon, Yi Lin regained his composure. He wouldn't believe that these few people really had the eye of reincarnation. If this thing was so well created and hooked, then Zale Apora wouldn't be embarrassed until now. So the only explanation is, the white cells on Obito's body must be Hashirama cells, and he himself is the Uchiha family. At the same time, Mangekyo should have awakened. 93. With the help of the Obito and Hashirama cells of the Uchiha family, a physique similar to that of the Otsutsuki family can be achieved in a short period of time. 19. With the power of all things, Nagato can temporarily give them the power of the Eye of Reincarnation, and they can barely use it. Advertisement. Yi Lin's current research has basically reached this stage. He also has the eyes of the Uchiha family and Hashirama cells, the only thing lacking is the power of all things. As for the source of the power that the other party has obtained, Yi Lin hardly needs to think about it. The Senra fruit that Kagaya got in the past, was left to Ju, and was eaten by Nagato. Although Ju did not show up at all this time, as a person who has also studied the awakening conditions of the Eye of Reincarnation and a traveler from the perspective of God, Yi Lin guessed the truth almost in an instant. But it was just when Yi Lin was thinking about it, the 3 members of the Shao organization who were given the power of reincarnation by Nagato also moved together. Planetary devastation. I saw that Yahiko asked his hands at this time, and then accompanied by a dark singularity appeared in the sky, with it as the core, a huge force that could destroy everything began to permeate. The ground of Jingling began to have rocks and soils that were attracted to the sky and merged into it, but in a moment, the prototype of a huge meteorite was formed. And feeling the huge fluctuation of power that seemed to destroy everything, the ninjas below naturally didn't care about anything, and raised their hands to move towards Yahiko above. They also knew that the thing in the sky would definitely fall down. It doesn't have eyes. Fire style. Kingdom. So the next moment, countless ninjutsu went towards Yahiko above. But at this time, Konan, who was standing beside Yahiko, first gave Zhang a cold look, and then Fang Rao took a step forward. She raised her hand lightly, and the countless ninjutsu that attacked seemed to be absorbed in the next moment, gradually dwindling and then disappearing into nothingness. At the same time, Zhang next to Conan has extremely complicated eyes. In fact, he has never regarded himself as an official member of the Xiao organization. Just like what Xiao organization said before when he brought him from Konoha to save Yun, they were just interworking. And the reason why he came here this time is actually because he has a sense of crisis for this gradually unfamiliar ninja world. Whether it's Jingling, Hueco Mundo, or Akatsuki's organization, as he defected to Konoha, the power and terror of these forces became clearer to Zhang. His original goal was to find a way to return to Konoha and launch a mutiny to become Hokage. But now, he is really confused because he found that the things he had prepared before that seemed to satisfy his ambition, actually began to become meaningless with the changes in the ninja world. He prepared a group of dead men, but it was a ridiculous plaything in front of the giant army. He has a group of secret relationships, and he may be able to get in touch with some dark sides of the ninja world to strengthen his own power. But compared to the ghost family who are in danger of being destroyed at any time in the whole ninja world, these things are nothing but jokes, no difference. Advertisement. So Zhang knew that at least his ambition could not be fulfilled in a short period of time, unless he could also cultivate his own strength to the point where he could compete with Jingling or the world government. Therefore, this time, Zhang had truly participated in the crazy plan of the Xiao organization and directly attacked Jingling. The reason is because he wants to understand the true strength and purpose of the Xiao organization. And without a doubt, the result was something he never imagined. He rubbed his eyes lightly, feeling the power in those eyes that he had never felt before, and his heart was full of desire. Today, we, Xiao, will destroy Jingling, and in this way, announce the rise of Xiao. 33. He longed to really have these eyes, he longed to really have this power. Sooner or later, one day. Boom. A dog is not a good dog if he has no ambition to eat meat. Following Yahiko's words, the huge planetary devastation was also smashed down in the next moment. So, he raised his hand slightly. Keep your ambition and greed in your heart, and know the role you should play now. As long as it can be used by him, it doesn't matter what kind of ambition. And the ninjas who didn't expect this out for a while also naturally didn't react, so after a while, they already suffered heavy losses from this blow. It was when Conan and Zhang easily neutralized the attack of the ninjas, the huge, planetary devastation, condensed by Yahiko above was also completed at this time. Thank you for reading this story at fictionzone.net. Your support enables us to keep the site running. He glanced at Zhang. As the true owner of the Eye of Reincarnation, he knew exactly what was in Zhang's heart. However, he did not plan to do anything about Tibet. But at the same time, Zhang also knew that 360, at least temporarily, he did not have enough strength to capture these eyes. And Nagato, who has completed the transformation, will not care about the little ambition that is hidden. So the next moment, the ninjutsu that was absorbed by Conan with the help of Samsara's eyes was released from the hands of Zhang towards the ninjas. Meanwhile, Nagato himself has never really done it. Chapter 123 The Powerful Combat Power of the Captains. 3/4, please subscribe. Destroying Jingling. Yahiko's words almost do not conceal the purpose of his coming here. But it was at this moment that the captains who had been watching from the sidelines almost all the time reacted. Just a few people want to destroy Jingling, but they haven't done it for so many years. My generation is really underestimated. 93. The shadows who had planned to counteract the huge meteor in the sky only heard such a voice in their ears. The next moment, they saw that a huge figure had come under the huge meteorite. Wearing an iron hat on his head, that figure is also the captain of the 7th Division, Paimura Sajin, one of the captains of the 13th Division of the Gote. At this time, the captain, who was as tall as a giant, also slowly raised Zanpakuto in his hand. Boom, god damn it. At the same time as the unintelligible words fell, the ninjas also saw a huge arm hooked behind Paimura Sajin. That arm seems to come from the arm of the ancient giant god, its size is like a giant mountain, and the giant sword in its hand is even more huge. The next moment, the huge arm slashed with a sword, and directly divided the huge planetary devastation above it into two neatly. That arm isn't Charla. After seeing this scene, Yahiko, a user of planetary devastation, was naturally stunned. Although he has only temporarily possessed part of the pupil power of the reincarnation eye by some means, as Nagato's best friend, he is naturally very aware of the terribleness of the reincarnation eye. Just like what Nagato and Conan did before, absorbing Zara is a basic ability of the Eye of Reincarnation. This is also the reason why ninjutsu is meaningless except for Sage Jutsu and Taijutsu in front of Samsara Eye. As one of the most representative moves of Samsara Eye, planetary devastation naturally takes into account this feature. Ordinary chakra can't stop planetary devastation from falling. Chara is just nourishment for planetary devastation. Only a chakra of the size of a tailed beast may continue to break through the absorption limit of planetary devastation. But now, this strike by Tamura Sajin cut off planetary devastation so easily. This also undoubtedly shows the fact that the huge thing like the giant arm is not condensed by Zara, but another kind of power. Jingling's unique sense of power. Before Yahiko even had time to think about it, another voice came from his ear. Allah, don't be in a daze when fighting. Otherwise, you'll die. Advertisement. At the same time as the words came, Yahiko also noticed the Kyoraku Shunsui who appeared above his head at some point. And in the hands of Kyoraku Shunsui, his Zanpakuto is also changing at this time. The flowers are chaotic, the flower gods cry, the wind is chaotic, the demons sneer, Kaden Kyokutsu. Following the chanting of the liberation language, the sword in Kyoraku Shunsui's hand was also divided into 2 long and 1 short swords. And Kyoraku Shunsui raised the sword high, and then slashed lightly. The blade cut through the air, and with the help of the exaggerated vision effect provided by the reincarnation eye, Yahiko instantly judged the attack trajectory and speed of the attack, and even analyzed the power of the attack. But, then, start the game. The rule of thumb is that whoever stands taller wins. When Kyoraku Shunsui's words fell, Yahiko felt a shudder in his heart. That's an instinct to face death one by one, so he almost instinctively leaned sideways to try to avoid the blow. But at the same time, Kyoraku Shunsui's knife has already fallen. Although he swung the blade so lightly as if it didn't take much effort, but at the same time as this shot fell, it even cut a huge ravine on the ground of Jingling Court below. And Yahiko's left body was almost completely penetrated by this blow. If he hadn't avoided it in time, I'm afraid this blow would have completely cut him in half. Yahiko. After seeing this scene, Conan also stretched out his fisherman, Vientian Sky. Just when she was about to perform universal pull to help Yahiko. Cough cough cough. I don't want to do anything with a little girl like you, but the person who invades Jingling Court is a double-edged enemy in my hands. In Conan's ear, Jashiro Yukataki's slightly weak voice came. And his figure, at this time, is also at Conan's side. So Conan turned around almost subconsciously and faced Jashiro with his other hand, Shinra Tensai. The huge repulsive force exploded in an instant. But when Jashiro faced the ability of Samsara Eye, which he had almost never missed in the past, he just smiled calmly. Everything flows and turns into my shield. All the lightning turned into my blade. 97. Advertisement. Sogyo no Kodowari. With the sound of the new liberation language, the Zanpakuto in his hand also turned into 2 strangely shaped blades. And the powerful repulsion launched by the Eye of Reincarnation was absorbed by the knife in his left hand. Then, 6. Boom. In the blade of his right hand, a stronger repulsion force erupted in the next moment. Boom. While talking, nearly gently stroked Zanpakuto in his hands. Thank you for reading this story at fictionzone.net. Your support enables us to keep the site running. And Zhang, the last of the 3 members of the Akatsuki organization, didn't even react, and in front of him, nearly had already appeared. After seeing the encounter between Yahiko and Conan, he naturally did not dare to underestimate the enemy, so at this time, a Shinra Tianjung immediately forced the poison away, and then jumped towards the rear. But clip, when the huge figure appeared, it almost crushed the surrounding buildings directly, and the poisonous mist the Good King's sprayed out of its mouth made Zhang look sideways at a glance. As his words fell, the Zanpakuto in his hand instantly turned into an extremely grotesque monster with a baby-like face and a centipede-like body. This kind of powerful combat power naturally cannot help them not be alarmed. Feeling the terrible power of rhyme displayed by the captains, the ninjas were also stunned. The huge repulsive force instantly knocked Conan into the air, and at the same time destroyed several walls below. Boom. And although the captain said that the hooking took a long time, in fact, it was only completed in an instant. So strong. Without him, because the captains of Gote 13 are not using any kind of ninjutsu they know, but a brand new power that they have never been exposed to. After witnessing this scene, Nagato, who had been standing quietly above, also had a cold look in his eyes. Open your claws and kill Jizo. And there is no doubt that with the diligent hands of the captains, the situation on the battlefield has already undergone tremendous changes. My knife was disobedient not long ago, so I took it to recast, and the seam has just been recast recently. Advertisement Chapter 124, All Things are Ashes. 4 quarters, please subscribe. Looking at the battle that had been reversed in an instant, Nagato's eyes were a little cold. There is no doubt that after absorbing the fruit of Senluo, his mentality and strength have undergone unprecedented transitions and changes. The surge in strength made him dare to come directly to Jingling's main formation, and his purpose of coming here was to destroy Jingling while King Ling was not in Jingling. But there is no doubt that all the development is beyond his expectations. He knew very well that Yahiko and Conan and Hidden used a special method to have the power of the Eye of Reincarnation, which almost surpassed the cage level. After all, the effect of the Eye of Reincarnation itself is too terrifying, and most cage-level powerhouses can't find any suitable solutions at all. According to Nagato's original plan, with the help of the power of Yahiko, Conan and Zhang, not to say that it will directly destroy Jingling, but at least it should be able to seriously damage Jingling. And by showing his power in this way, he can also let the people in the ninja world know that every member of the Akatsuki organization is an extremely powerful being. This is also the first step for him to achieve his deterrence by force to create peace. But obviously, he underestimated the strength of the captains. Just 4 captains shot, and the 3 of Yahiko were already at a disadvantage. And more importantly, The 4 captains were obviously not working with all their strength, but were in a state of having spare energy. If you take into account the 6 remaining captains who have been hanging on the 360 machine and have never done it. Or is the strength and personnel of the organization too far from the background of these guys? Nagato sighed inwardly, but at the same time, he didn't panic. Because only he himself knows how strong he is. His current level of power is not at the same level as Yahiko Konan and others, the power he possesses is beyond the scope of pure reincarnation. So at this time, although he sighed in his heart, he still had enough confidence. While thinking so, he also waved his hand gently. So I saw the 3 figures of Yahiko came behind Nagato in an instant. Nagato raised his hand gently and waved lightly on the extremely tragic wounds on Yahiko and Konan, and the huge Yangtongchala almost repaired the wounds of the 2 in an instant. And looking at this almost miraculous power, the ninjas were almost stunned. Especially Jiraiya, who used to be a teacher of Nagato, looked even more complicated at this time. Sure enough, a power like Sage of 6 Paths. He felt extremely guilty, because it was his previous negligence that caused Nagato, who could have been the savior of the shinobi world, to become what he is now. At this time, it was easy to heal Yahiko and Nagato in the south of the small AGCG, also slowly looking at the Jingling pavilion below. Since that's the case, then it's up to me to destroy this place myself. At the same time as the words fell, he also looked at the captains of the Gote 13 team below. Advertisement. Ah, we are really being underestimated. 99. After hearing Nagato's words, Hiroku Shunsui also chuckled. Then, the captains seemed to be heading towards Nagato. But right now, no enough. The old voice of Yamamoto Yuanyujai Shigekuni came at this time, and it contained obvious dissatisfaction. You little guys, it seems that you have been idle for too long in Jingling Court. Enemies of this level of mere level have actually made this place look like this, and they all go to the Repentance Palace to receive their punishment after they are over. The commander-in-chief looked at the ground previously slashed by Kiraku Shunsui, then looked at the wall destroyed by the repulsive force of Jashiro's rebound, and the building squashed by the killed Jizo. His words were extremely severe. But after hearing his words, the ninjas present were all dumbfounded on the spot. They couldn't help but want to go up and shout to the captain, "Uncle, is this the time to say this? Everyone is about to destroy your Jingling Court, but you are still thinking about the loss, punishment and problems caused by your own captain." They simply wondered if the commander-in-chief, who looked too old to be a man, was confused. But the next moment, Yamamoto Yuanyujai Shigekuni's words made them react instantly. Go back, you guys, next, let the old man handle it. The words of Yamamoto Genyazai Shigekuni instantly made the ninjas understand. The performance of the captain at this time may not be because of old confusion, but because of pure self-confidence. In the next moment, the captain's reactions almost confirmed their guesses. No, the old man is angry. The tall Inagura Sajin had a guilty conscience in his words at this time. Obviously he felt that what the intruders said made him angry, but we had to blame us. 99. And Kiraku Shunsui shrugged. Let's say a few words, the old man rarely wants to exercise his muscles and bones. Jashiro smiled calmly, and then took back his Sogyo no Kodowari. Really? And seeing the absolute confidence of the captain Yamamoto Yuanyujai Shigekuni in the relaxed expression of the captains, the ninjas also secretly thought in their hearts. As a result, their hearts could not help but have a huge curiosity. Advertisement. It is difficult for them to imagine what kind of strength the captain, who seems to have aged, can make other captains show such confidence. At the same time, Nagato was clearly infuriated by the performance of the captains and Yamamoto Motoyazai Shigekuni. He, who is extremely confident in his current strength, naturally cannot tolerate such contempt from the other party. So, feel the pain. Planetary devastation. The same planetary devastation used by Yahiko before is impressively rhymed by Nagato, but the effect is undoubtedly completely different from that used by Yahiko. With Nagato's whispered words, he didn't even make any movement, and a huge pitch-black singularity had already risen into the sky. In just an instant, a huge meteorite that is far larger than the planetary devastation condensed by Yahiko, almost as if completely covering the entire world, has already enveloped the entire Jingling Court. At the moment when the huge shadow was caught, an instinctive sense of despair was already in the hearts of all ninjas. Like ants facing people, like sheep in front of lions. They didn't even feel fear, just looked at the unbelievably huge meteorite in the sky, and felt a sense of powerlessness in their hearts. Especially watching the huge meteorite that covered the sky and the sun slowly falling, they didn't even have the thought to avoid it. They couldn't even have the chance to escape. Minato, go back to the village with the flying thunder god, immediately. Only Sarutobi Hiizaki was frantically urging Namikaze Minato at this time. In his opinion, such a blow is not something that human beings can resist at all, as if it really belongs to the power of God. But, at the next moment, destroy Jingling Court. The voice of Yamamoto Genyazai Shigekuni came. Looking at the huge meteorite above the shadow that enveloped the entire Jingling Court, the commander-in-chief just spoke calmly. Do you know why His Majesty the King of Spirit will go on an expedition to Hueco Mundo, and only let this old man lead the 13th guarding team to stay in Jingling Court? That's because the old man is strong enough. As if stating facts known to the world, his calm and indifferent words contain an indescribable haughty and endless confidence. From the establishment of Jingling Court to the present, for 10,000 years, among all Shinigami, no one has ever been stronger than this old man. 11. With such words falling, the crutch in Yamamoto Yuanyuji Shigekuni's hand also turned to ashes. Inside the cane, a Zanpakuto with an extremely ordinary appearance was hidden in it. All things are ashes, all are ashes. Ryujin Jaka. Chapter 125 Absolute Power. The Emotion of the Ninjas. 14. Please subscribe. Bake. Along with the chanting of the liberation language, the flames have been lit on the ordinary and ancient Zanpakuto in the hands of Yamamoto Yuanyuji Chonguo. Silently, the huge Reiatsu almost made the weak ninjas faint in an instant. That's not real power, but simply the result of the spread of Reiatsu. With the liberation of his power, a huge heat wave surged up, and the surrounding temperature seemed to have risen by dozens of degrees in a moment. The moisture in the air began to evaporate gradually, and Yamamoto Yuanyuji Shigekuni held the sword that was as hot as a prison, and faced the super-large planetary devastation that fell from above. Ryujin Jaka Song Ming. At the same time as the Tachi in his hand drew the hook, the golden flame turned into a huge tornado that covered the sky and swept toward the planetary devastation above. And the planetary devastation, which carries the power of the Eye of Reincarnation, was evaporated and burned into dust in an instant before the boundless flames spread. Yes, it wasn't even simply divided into two. The huge meteorite that almost covered the entire sky turned into dust directly in front of this blow, and couldn't even find a big dot debris. After seeing the power of this blow, even Nagato's face at this time couldn't help but change dramatically. He never imagined that someone could destroy his planetary devastation in such an exaggerated way. However, he actually didn't have much time to think about it. Because it was just the moment he thought about it, Yamamoto Yuanyuji Shigekuni's figure was already hooked behind him. White hits. One bone. His left fist slammed out like a giant cannon, and the powerful force that erupted in an instant formed an invisible air wave. The first style stroke. And his right hand is holding Ryujin Jaka, and the sword light is slashing towards Nagato with terrifying power. Shen Luo Tianzheng. In the face of this sudden two blows, Nagato also raised his hand. 66 inches boom. An invisible and majestic repulsive force suddenly erupted from his body. Although the Shinra Tensei that Yahiko, Konan and others had shown before was already powerful enough, the Shinra Tensei performed by Nagato himself at this time was obviously far more powerful than them. Advertisement its power is so great that it has even caused the repulsive force, which should have no form, to faintly twist the cat space, forming a strange wall of repulsion. In the face of this huge repulsive force, Yamamoto's two strikes were also instantly turned away from the original attack direction. The huge impact brought by the fist wind was twisted to the left, smashing to the ground and almost turning dozens of buildings into ruins in an instant. The sword light that was slashed by Fuzan was twisted and flew towards the sky, and then the whole cloud layer of the sky was divided into two. But this terrible situation is only the beginning. Because at this time, Yamamoto Yuanyuji Shigekuni had already fished behind Nagato again after the effect of Shinra Tensei had ended. The captain's old eyes seemed to hide a lion. At this time, his sharp eyes were accompanied by the scorching heat and words that made Nagato almost breathless in the blink of an eye. Resolved. Sword of fiery fire. The words fell, and the Ryujin Jaka in the hands of Yamamoto Yuanyuji Shigekuni even shattered the blade in an instant at this time, turning into a real knife of fire. Yamamoto Yuanyuji Shigekuni wielded the blade, and when the blade slid across the space, a real twisting arc took place in an instant, as if even the space itself would be burned in front of this blazing blade of fire dusty. In the face of the locked space, Nagato's eyes also showed a hint of horror. But he was obviously too late to escape. The scorching flaming sword fell in an instant. But at the moment when it was about to touch Nagato, the sword of fire that destroyed everything had a momentary pause. But even though it was only a brief pause, it was enough to give Nagato a moment to adjust his position. Then, the blade of fire slashed Nagato's left arm, and almost instantly melted Nagato's left arm into nothingness. And Nagato didn't even care about the pain and burning sensation at this time, but immediately retreated back. Buzz. And silently, several dark truth-seeking balls appeared behind him, smashing towards Yamamoto Yuanyuji Heavy Country. In the face of the attack of the truth-seeking ball, Yamamoto Genyuji Shigekuni also lifted Ryujin Jaka but waved slowly. Bakudo number 81 Splitting Void. The huge Reiatsu defensive wall rose in front of him, and the sharp swords that the truth-seeking balls turned into burst into a huge shock wave when they fell on the defensive wall. Zero Seeking Flowers. Advertisement. Boom. In the roar, the violent shock wave was like an eraser that erased traces, erasing everything around it in an instant. The stones, trees, and buildings in Jingling Court have all become like weeds, being destroyed and blown away without any hindrance, leaving only a trace of destruction. But with the help of the time delayed by the truth-seeking ball, Nagato's figure also burst back hundreds of meters away. The speed and destructive power between the two sides are difficult to describe in words. Even the captains of the Guardian 13 team below couldn't help but muttered at this time. In the face of such power, only equal power has value. It's obvious that you destroy the most things, right? Thank you for reading this story at fictionzone.net. Your support enables us to keep the site running. A single move is enough to raise a huge city to a meteorite, and 2 or 3 random blows can tear the ground, cut the sky, and even twist the space. There is no doubt that the simple conflict of power they witnessed this time was enough to change all their previous values. Such power. At this time, even if they just looked at Yamamoto and Nagato above the sky, there was an indescribable emotion in their hearts. Because even just watching the confrontation between the two from afar is enough for them to completely refresh their cognition of power. Really, is it something a man can have? As for all other so-called authority calculations, so-called conspiracies, in the face of this level of absolute power, they are meaningless. And when they heard the captain still talking about this kind of thing, the 4 shadows around them couldn't even complain. This third Hokage, who has gradually grown in age and has stepped down from the Hokage position, is now terrifyingly old. Sarutobi Hiizaki gave a wry smile. At the same time, the expressions of the shadows of the other major ninja villages and the cage-level powerhouses are also similar. Because it was only the aftermath of the fight between the two, their ninja formation was still shattered by the shock, and they were finally beaten down. The old man has no scruples while teaching us a lesson and doing it himself. 0. It is difficult for them to imagine that the confrontation between two people can develop into this form.